I 28M with fiancé 27F about a month ago overheard her tell a friend her previous ex was the best lover she ever had. It was quite by accident that I heard this. We had a group of our friends over, and as the night went on we all kind of busted out into little groups. Some of us were in one room playing Texas Hold'em, and a couple of others were watching a Lord of the Ring marathon. I thought she was watching the movies, but she and one of her close friends were actually sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee and talking. Our group had run out of soda. So I got up to go to the kitchen to get drinks and a couple of snacks. As I'm rounding the corner, I hear my fiancée talking, and before I completely come in the room I hear her clearly say, "Jason is great, but he will never be the lover that Bill was." She then followed it up with, "It's not really fair to Jason though. Bill was just really gifted down there." At first I thought about just walking back into the card game and pretending like we didn't have any extra soda or food, but I decided to kind of make a noise and go in. Her friend caught eye of me rounding the corner and I could see her make a face to my fiancé letting her know I was there. Of course she has no idea I heard her, and she just stops talking to her and asks me how I'm doing and if I'm having fun. I was tempted to say something like, "I'm having as much fun as someone who is not gifted down there can," but I didn't. I just said yes, and proceeded to get my stuff, and go back and finish the night. I just acted like nothing was wrong the rest of the night and went to bed. Needless to say it fucked me up. I mean, fucked me up bad. I've never been jealous or what you would call insecure about myself until that moment. I couldn't sleep that night and I went through a myriad of emotions while laying there. At first I was angry. Then I was humiliated. Then I was depressed. Then I was angry again. Look, I realize that the male ego seems stupid to women, and even guys who are totally self-assured. I would have agreed with most of this prior to that night, but once it has been damaged, it is a bitch. Tried to hide any form of emotion about it or ever let her know, but as the days went on I just kept getting worse and worse. I was avoiding her at all costs, and while she was suspicious, she didn't really say anything. That is, until she attempted to be intimate with me a few days later, and I flat out rejected her. It wasn't by a conscious decision on my part. By the way, I had made the decision on my own to just try and get over it and move on. But in the moment, instead of being sexually aroused, I felt deeply inadequate and ashamed. Nothing was happening no matter how much either of us tried. She asked me what was wrong, and I just told her I must have been stressed from work, but she would not believe that or let it go. So much to my humiliation, there I laid, naked in bed, unable to get an erection. I came clean and told her what I heard. Well, this did not go over well at all. At first she tried to tell me I did not hear her correctly, but I just repeated to her verbatim what she had told her friend. Well, once she couldn't deny it, she then tried to apologize, and to her credit, she tried to listen to my feelings on the matter, which once again I am sure was more of a big turnoff for her, because I was a wreck emotionally. She tried to tell me how much of a better person I was and how I satisfied her and she wanted nobody else. But all I could hear was Charlie Brown's teacher noise. It quote, "has been almost a month, and I have zero desire to be with her sexually. None." She is now getting frustrated about this as well, but no matter what I have tried, I just cannot get past this. It's not like she said we were both good lovers and anything like that. She clearly said he was far superior, and my guess is that being gifted down there means he was significantly larger than me as well. Well, I know I can do all kinds of things with my hands, tongue, and whatever else, but no matter what I do, I can't grow in size. Obviously, she refuses to talk about that, with me saying that no matter what she says, it will only make things worse. Because even if she says something positive about me, I won't believe her. She's most likely right. Some backstory here. He dumped her. It was not a mutual breakup. He flat out dumped her and broke her heart. I know this because early on in our relationship she told me this. She said she wasn't ready to be serious about anybody because her previous ex left her and emotionally broke her. So this is not a case of me even being able to say, well, she's with me because she wants to be. If he hadn't dumped her, she would never have left him. Now I have no idea if after all of these years she would leave me for him if he would come back, but I don't think she would. I just don't know what to do here. I can feel myself checking out of the relationship. I know this is petty as shit, but hearing the person you love tell someone else they prefer to have sex with someone else is just devastating to me. Her telling me all of my other good qualities has only made it worse because she is saying things that I think appeal to her and maybe other women. But being told I am a good provider and will make a great husband makes me feel like shit. Like, what would happen if I lost my good-paying job, or better yet, what if I were to get injured and couldn't make anything more than state assistance? Would she be there to support and help me? Basically, what I feel like right now is a really good friend who she just allowed to have sex with. I know in my head that this is not correct, but in my heart that is what I feel. I quote sorry for the length here, and I don't even know what I am asking here. I am totally lost, and if this continues, I just think I am going to break our engagement. TL.dr. Heard fiancé tell her friend that previous ex was superior in the sack, presumable due to size among other things. Relationship has gone to hell since, and I need advice. Edits from the main post edit one. Holy God. I made this post last night and answered a couple of questions, and then went to bed and got up today and went Christmas shopping, hoping to make me forget my troubles, and didn't even log in until just now. I have not even started to read the, at this point, 7.7 thousand comments on this post. I don't know what anyone has said yet, but thank you all for commenting either way. I am now going to begin the massive undertaking of looking at the comments. Also, thank you for the gold and silver kind internet strangers. Edit 2. Dear God. I read all the way down to the bottom of the page, thinking I had gotten through most of everything, and then at the bottom it said, load the 5.5k more posts. I'm stopping. For the night, well, morning actually. I was going to respond to people individually, but there is just no way. I haven't even started reading the direct messages to me yet, nor have I opened any of the 20 chat screens. There are issues I want out there because there are a couple of things that are being said that are not accurate. She was to use the Barney Gumble phrase using sweet, sweet drunk talk. In other words, her and her friend were drunk while talking. Nope, neither of us drink. We don't even have it in the house. That I am upset, she told her friend. Well, this is an odd thing. Before I posted this, honestly, I wasn't that upset about this part. I was then, and am still, far more upset that this is how she feels. However, now, reading a lot of the post, I have become somewhat aggravated that she did share this with her friend. I would never say anything about her to anyone that would put her in a lesser light. That I am an insecure man-child who should just man up and learn to do better. Well, I'm certain the first part is true, being insecure and all, but the last part is just out of my control. No matter what I do, I will only ever be 7 inches long. We have talked about this BTW when she was trying to build me up. She said that I was already great with everything but the one thing I can't control. Okay, so I gave myself about a ½ inch to feel better. No, I'm not going to do anything rash. It's already been a month, so it's not like this happened last week. But yes, I have to decide what I am going to do here before long. It's not fair to either of us, as I am just coasting through this and no longer committed. She is sorry that I heard it. She said she is sorry she said it, but at the end of the day, she would not be sorry if I didn't catch her saying it. It is what it is. But yes, I do believe she is regretting it because she has basically been a mess since I first told her. Me not wanting to be with her is bothering her a lot, according to her. I don't know how much of that I believe, but right now I guess I don't know why she would lie. It really has wrecked hell on our Christmas spirit this year. I know that. Edit 3. Engineer for those who keep asking what I do for a living. She is a paralegal. Edit 4. People have been asking about the relationship with the ex and how I know she was heartbroken. We met about 9 months after they separated. I know that ultimately he wanted to be with someone else, although she has claimed he never cheated. He just ended things so he could be with another woman. She approached me at a local workshop and we started dating. On our 4th date, when things started to get physical, she broke down crying about the ex. It was certainly weird to hold someone while they cried about someone else, but I did it. We sporadically dated for a couple more months, in which time I never tried to cross any boundaries physically because it was obvious she wasn't over him. So, while we just went out of dates, I tried to keep myself of the mind that we were just friends because I didn't want to commit either. After close to 2 months, she drags me from my car to her apartment and begins to tell me how much she has appreciated my patience with her and how she felt stupid about dragging me along for so long. Obviously, that was our first night together. Within 3 months of that, she is telling me that she loves me. So yes, she was still hung up on her ex for fact when we got together. I had thought you hoped she was over him before this happened. Update. 1. I-28M with fiancé 27F about a month ago overheard her tell a friend her previous ex was the best lover she ever had. Main thread has over 8.3K posts and is a couple of day old now, but I wanted to try and respond to some general thoughts. It is absolutely impossible for me respond to everyone, or even most people. And at this point putting up edits, I think, is counterproductive because the thread is a few days old now, so I doubt people are going back to reread the OP. I don't want to make an update there yet because I'm not really updating anything. Nothing has happened yet, per se. However, I have a few things to get off of my chest, so this seems like the best place to do that before I update my OP. I have had so many people post on the original thread, and twice as many people send me PMs telling me to hit the weight room and get in shape and transform myself into some form of weightlifting god. I am sure that these people are all filled with the best of intentions. Well, not all of them, because I have also had several people call me all forms of names while telling me to hit the weights. Here is the problem for those people. They are using a stereotype about engineers and think that I fit that stereotype. I was a state finalist in wrestling in high school and got a partial scholarship to a Division II school for wrestling. I competed both my freshman and sophomore years. However, due to throwing a goddamn baseball, I tore my rotator cuff, and while my recovery had me well on my way back, my physical therapy prohibited me from being ready for my junior year. I did not go back for my senior year as my workload and girlfriend were too much to also dedicate the time for wrestling. Wrestling was very physically demanding and time-consuming. Now I freely admit that not training to compete did not leave me in even 1/8 the shape I was in at my prime. I have stayed in shape. To this day I still lift and do cardio at my local gym. I've been getting my ass kicked lately by my friend, who is doing a Muay Thai workout. I've been trying to keep up with him but freely admit I have a lot of leg work to do. Now this leads me to want to focus on a couple of other things. You will notice I said girlfriend. Contrary to what some of you have said or implied, I was not some incel or neckbeard prior to meeting my fiancé. I have had several girlfriends and yes, even a couple of NSA relationships. So that is why this bothered me more than it probably should have. In other words, prior to this, while I may not have been the world's most confident guy, I never felt like it was an issue. I've never ever had another woman say something like this in earshot of me about me. I mean, did they say it when I couldn't hear? I have no idea. But till the moment she said that I never had any self-doubt or lack of confidence. Now does me having this mental breakdown over this make me a man-child, weak or straight-up pussy, as I've been called? I don't know. Maybe. Hell. Probably. But bluntly speaking, I've never had anything like this happen to me before. Every breakup I've ever gone through was for the most part mature. I had a very childish breakup in high school. But does that even count? Also to all of the geniuses that keep telling me to learn a new technique or practice or just plain get better at sex. That's not the issue here, guys. She didn't say that I could work on the issue at hand. She straight up told her friend that I would never be able to measure up, so to speak, because of a physical attribute that I can do nothing about. I could become an Oriental lickmaster, and at the end of the day, I am never going to be able to finish her by jackhammering with what I can only imagine must be a 9 inches dong. Should that matter? Well, it fucking doesn't matter if it should matter. It obviously does to her, or she would not have said it. I don't know of any single way we can unring this bell. Which then brings me to the biggest thing I want to get off of my chest. There are several poster, both men and women and ironically gay males over 30, who have a subreddit that I guess I am a topic on, who have said, it's just sex. Well, those words do not exist in my vocabulary for someone I love. I admit that I had a couple of NSA partners in grad school, but even with them I developed feelings and had to part, because I could not just do that. I don't do ONS, and since my mid-20s have only participated sex via a relationship. I found out that I am just not capable of having sex, and just having sex. I get it. There are many of you who don't feel that way. Great for you, I don't feel that way. And I am not going to fight myself to make myself feel that way. Do I need to be my fiancé's best ever? Well, why the hell should I not want that? If you would have asked me before that night, I would have thought, I was, but now that I know I'm not. Well, no, I'm not really okay with the fact that I can never measure up. I mean, if I could work on something or improve something or take more time or something, sure. But to hear her say, I can never be as good? Yay, sorry, that is a little more than my ego can take. Call me whatever name you want, but it is what it is. But some of the really most disgusting stuff that was said to me is that I should be happy, that she is with me and allows me to have sex with her, so she must want me. Allows me to have sex with her. I cannot describe in enough words how that offends me. Maybe I've lived in a Disney fantasy world for me, but I always wanted to be with someone who wanted to be with me, not someone who allows me out of some form of obligation. So does that make me a sissy, as a few of you have PM'd me? I don't care if it does. I refuse to be a person who begs for sex, period. If whoever I'm with does not want to be with me as much as I want to be with her, then fuck it. I'll just pay an escort and probably save myself money in the long run. Look, I don't know for 100% sure what I'm going to do yet. I have a very strong feeling what I'm going to do, but I haven't done anything yet. If this is the wrong forum, just let me know. Anyway, I'll try and do my best to respond to posts here. Update. I-28M with fiancé 27F about a month ago overheard her tell a friend her previous ex was the best lover she ever had. It all came to a head last night. She just came out and asked me if I did not love her anymore, and all that I could tell her was that a very large part of me still did, but that what she said had really made it, so that another part of me just didn't anymore. This started a larger conversation that I won't bore you with, but ultimately it came down to me saying that I would have heard that he was just better at something or more attentive to something or was able to do something, that I would have felt like I could have worked on it. I would have listened to anything she wanted, worked on any technique or anything else that she would have shared with me. But to know that I was never going to measure up simply because of a physical issue was not something I thought I could get over anytime soon, or if I ever could for that matter. I was even honest and said that if it was just a ONS she had or some random guy who was just huge, I might be able to get past that. But knowing that it was a guy who she was still madly in love with when I met her, and only after time did she ever start to come around, then it was just more than I could handle. She kept trying to tell me how much better I was at everything else, and that I should not throw away a lifetime over one aspect. I told her that that one aspect sadly was just too high for me. Not all things are equal, and that honestly it is a mental failing on my part, that it is. But whether it is genetics or a learned trait or whatever, that yes, I needed to be my spouse's best, and she has already made it clear that I can never be. I tried my best to be gentle. I tried to take all of the blame of stating that I knew that my attitude was probably not healthy, but it was who I am. BTW. I'm typing this as though this were a clean conversation. It wasn't. There was lots of crying by both of us. This is not a happy ending or even a satisfying one. I am beyond fucked up in the head over the entire situation. Everybody's Christmas is ruined. We had big family gatherings that we both were attending together, and now we have to somehow break it to our families what has happened. This alone is causing me massive stress because my parents loved her. And what in the hell am I going to say is the reason why we are not together? She didn't cheat, and if I say that I felt like she was still hung up on her ex, she will obviously deny it and she will tell them the truth. It's fucked up no matter how this goes down. In the end, I feel like a massive failure. I feel like a failure as a man because of not living up to comparison, and I feel like a failure because I wasn't able to just man up and either get over it. She has begged me to go to couples counseling, and initially I said no because at the end of the day, what does it change? We can talk about every single thing, and I can try and look at things from a different way. And at the end of the day, the woman who I wanted to marry just told one of our friends that no matter what I do, I will never be as good as her ex. I just cannot see 5 years from now ever being okay with this. But because she legitimately seems heartbroken, I agreed to go. But that does not mean I will keep going. Today I moved out a lot of my stuff, and am staying with a coworker for a few days until I can get a place for myself. She has been with her sister all day. I feel like shit. Thank you to everyone who took the time to type out a response. I honestly have tried to read everything even if I didn't reply to very many. The bitch of all of this is that I still love her. There is so much of me right now that wants to pick up the phone and call her and beg her to come back. Edit 1. Well, once again I posted this, and then went away for a while. I went with my friend to see Mortal Engines and to dinner, and then we've been talking for a long while, so I started reading a while ago. It is going to take me forever to read. And once again, I don't think responding individually will ever happen, because of the large number of posts and private messages. But thank all of you for reading and responding. Edit 2. I guess I do want to share one thing I spoke with her about. When we were having our very long conversation, I presented her with a scenario for her to compare. I know her well enough to know that comparing body parts or sexual prowess isn't going to impact her the same way it would me. So I put the scenario to her like this. I said, what if you walked in and overheard me talking with my friend Tim? And you heard this. Jill is great, but she will never understand me and comfort me the way Tiffany did. But it's not Jill's fault. Tiffany is just the smartest, most compassionate person I've ever known. And Jill just isn't as smart. Then if she would confront me about saying those things about her, that my response to her would have been, I love you for all of your other qualities. Nobody makes a sandwich like you do, and I think long-term you won't gauge me for my money. At first she tried to say that this was a totally different issue, but once we talked more about it, she finally agreed it is because of the way we both approach and value sex. She ultimately admitted that this would really hurt her feelings, but she would not break up with me over it. I then responded that even in my make-believe scenario, which BTW I would never say to anyone out loud about anyone I loved, she could improve her level of education and learn to be more compassionate. Edit 3. If anyone even reads this, I want to add one last thing. People have been telling me what a whiny bitch I am. That's one of the more kind things they've said, because I can't get over someone else in the world having a bigger dick than me. Not going to lie and say I'm thrilled with it, but I'm not dumb enough to think I have a giant magic wand or anything. I had grown up believing what I now know to be a lie, that women don't care about size. Some don't, but obviously some do, and my ex is one of those that obviously did. But even with that, ultimately I might have been able to get over it if it was just said, as a matter of fact. But hearing that no matter what I did, how much I loved her or any other thing, that I was never going to be as good, is what has bothered me since. Yes, size is obviously a big part of it, but if I hadn't heard that, I would never be the lover. I think I might have been okay. Well, not okay, but at least not relationship killing. Yes, I overvalue sex. I get that. Yes, it is very important to me, and well, frankly, I want to be wanted as much as I want to want someone, if that makes any sense. Yes, I know whoever I date in the future will most likely have had someone who was either bigger, better, or whatever. But I would really hope that they would not be still hung up on it a few years later. Final update. I, 28M, with fiancé 27F about a month ago, overheard her tell a friend her previous ex was the best lover she ever had. I wasn't going to post anymore, but I am still getting daily direct messages wanting to know how things are going. I do appreciate the kind words and concerns. But just so anyone who cares can know, it is over. I went to counseling with her on 3 different occasions, and honestly, I tried to have an open mind about it. But at the end of the day, the obstacle was just too much to overcome. I even gave her an opportunity to walk back her statement or amend it, or well, do whatever she wanted to with it. But instead she doubled down in a way. I think by that time she was very frustrated as well. Neither of us are really happy about this. It has been an absolute nightmare for me trying to avoid telling people why we are no longer together. Of course I tried the old, it's none of your business to some of them, but that failed spectacularly. And since I refused to tell, they decided she cheated on me and started spreading that around. I've had to do a lot of damage control over that. I quote. V decided to continue with therapy on a personal level because honestly, this entire thing has really messed with my head, and I have no self-esteem left at all. I quote, V only seen her once since we separated, and it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. She is now, justifiably so, in the angry stage. She is furious with me and has called me everything that you can imagine, and then even made up some words. TLDR. It's over. I tried going to counseling and things only got worse. Stories number 2. I lied to my pick-me friend and she got a tattoo based off of it. It's been about 2 years since this happened, but I just got confirmation from a friend who attended her tattoo appointment that it was because of what I said. The backstory: I-25F was introduced to Peggy fake name 25F through a mutual friend. She had recently moved into the friend's neighboring apartment unit and was quickly introduced to our friend group. Almost immediately, I could tell we weren't going to get along based off of some backhanded compliments that were given, but I decided that it was too quick to judge her fairly and invited her to a game night that a friend and I were hosting. Huge mistake. Game 1. Sardines. During a drunken game of sardines in the dark, Peggy faked a fall and pushed my head into a shelf. How do I know she faked it? Because she literally told me in front of everyone and laughed about it, saying, "I found him first. That's why I pushed you." Game 2. King's Cup. Peggy called me out during the never have I ever portion for having gone through a divorce. Talking about it normally wouldn't have bothered me, since everyone who was there already knew about it, and were really supportive during that time. But it was the fact that she was trying to single me out and shame me for it. Throughout the rest of the night this kind of behavior continued, and by the end, I was thoroughly convinced she had some sort of vendetta against me. Finding out what, or in my case, woe it was, took almost no time at all. One of our friends, who we'll call Mark, was in attendance that first night. Mark, 28M, is a tall, kind, funny, and generally attractive guy. Essentially, he's catnip for her type. At this time, we were pretty close friends, and Peggy did not like that. For the next 6 months, any time he was around, I had to deal with the most ridiculous, awkward, and petty attempts of her trying to single me out or embarrass me. Now here's where the tattoo comes into play. I had been planning on getting a dragon tattoo for over a year. I am fully aware that dragons are a common and trending tattoo, but I wanted it anyways because it was special to me and my mom. I had even worked with my tattoo artist on incorporating her favorite flowers into the piece and figuring out what kind of style, other details I wanted. About a month before my appointment, Peggy heard a friend and I talking about the tattoo and started asking questions. I swear I could see the moment the light bulb went off in her head, because she grew the biggest shit-eating grin I have ever seen. My light bulb moment happened shortly after. When she asked where and what kind of dragon tattoo I wanted to get, I lied. I told her about how much I loved the movie Spirited Away because I do. It's a banger, and went on a tangent about how I grew up on that movie, how my dad showed it to me, and that it'd be cool if Haku was wrapping around my arm, or something. If you haven't seen the movie, one of the main characters is a boy named Haku, who turns into a dragon. Peggy had never seen this movie before, so I encouraged her to check it out, and ended the conversation there. Now, considering she had never seen it before, I didn't think she'd actually do it. But read it. She did it. And it wasn't just a tiny cutesy little thing either. She committed to my exact description. The thing is freaking huge. When she showed it to me 2 weeks later, I was in shock, and she probably thought I was upset for taking something from me. But I went home that night and switched between feeling awful for lying to her and laughing for how utterly unbelievable she was for doing it. 2 years later, and I'm still doing that. I had confessed to a friend recently about my lie, and that's when she told me. She went to the tattoo appointment with Peggy that day. And word for word, Peggy had said, "She's going to be so upset. This is like the exact tattoo she wanted." Comments. Commenter 1. I don't know if this is petty revenge, but holy shit, that's a good one. A meaningless tattoo trap. It's got my stamp of approval. Commenter 2. I love this one because the trap only works because she's a terrible person. Commenter 3. Forget about Peggy. I'm curious about your friend who heard her villain speech about you and did nothing until you confessed. Stories number 3. Aita for telling my dad that I don't like his wife after 20+ years knowing her. For the first time in my life, I 28F got into a big argument with my dad. Context. My parents got divorced when I was 5. He almost immediately moved in with her. I lived with my mom, went there every other weekend and half of school holidays. The best moment of the weekend was the drive back and forth, since most of the time it was only the two of us. The rest of the time was spent with my stepmothers and 2 of her children. To today. My wife and I are buying a house, and I asked him if he could check it out on Wednesday. His answer: just trust the estate agent, he doesn't have time because he may watch my stepsister's kids. He's watching those kids every fucking week on the year. He's been doing that for years and always complains about how much energy it takes. I felt let down because he rarely has the occasion to show me that he cares. We have a cordial, yet not deep relationship. That was one of the biggest steps of my life, and he didn't even try to be a part of it. I thought that maybe he was hurt by the fact that we didn't invite him to our current house, so I told him it wasn't personal, that I had nothing against him, but that I didn't feel like having my stepmother at my place because she's always been mean to me, but he was welcome to come by himself. He refused, got offended that he discovered that I didn't like his wife. Like, open your eyes. She hates on me all the time? He said I needed to let go of the past. Offered to get dinner someday soon to talk it out. I insisted to talk it out on the phone because I didn't feel like seeing him, and that it was no conversation to have in a restaurant. Here are some examples of why I can't stand her anymore. Are they exaggerated? Is he right, and I should let go of them? When I was doing ballet 5, 6 years old, she'd say that I was too fat to dance. She forced me to get my armpits and legs waxed at 10, because she was afraid that me shaving would look bad on her wedding pics. It hurt like hell, by the way, and I still remember how I felt like shit. Didn't like me staying at home doing homework, reading or playing video games, so I had to go out and hang out with my stepsister's friends. She made homophonic comments about gay marriage when she had the chance. After I came out, she encouraged me to get sleep with men, in case it turned me straight. 14 at the time, I never told my dad, called me too fat when I was 16, for a whole summer, called me too skinny. At 18 I became super self-conscious of my body and lost a lot of weight. She undermined all my successes, especially school-related ones. She talked behind my back a lot to other family members. She would always disagree with me about everything. She would spend whole dinners talking about her. Me being a vegetarian is wrong and stupid. Never said a single wrong word about her son's vegetarian girlfriend, though. She gives me the cold shoulder very often or just acts super cold. When I'm around 23 years knowing her, and 1.5 years old therapy later, I finally unloaded what I had to say. My dad thinks he did his best as a dad, that she has nothing against me, and that I'm still in the past. He's now blaming my wife for my changing behavior. I used to be afraid to speak up for myself. I'm not his girl anymore, because I don't smile as much as I used to. I'm done putting up a nice face when I'm being walked all over. Thanks. Well, Dad, it's called therapy. Was I wrong? Am I really living in the past? Should I have accepted his invite to talk about it face to face? Relevant comments up clarifies on how her dad got together with his current wife. Her stepmother reply: he clearly cheated on my mom with her and introduced me to her before telling me they were getting a divorce. Yep, apparently he had his priorities. Thanks for the support update. Aita for telling my dad that I don't like his wife after 20+ years knowing her. First of all, thank you to all the people who took the time to read me and comment. Your support has been amazing. Here is an update since some of you asked for it. I tried to keep it short, but it's not easy. Hope I'm not too long. My big brother texted me yesterday evening asking why I took such a big decision and saying that Dad is not doing okay. I called my brother this morning to talk about it. To make a long story short, my brother's version: I'm screwing the family dynamic and making things hard on my dad. Therapy is mostly bullshit, and I'm just being difficult. My mom complained as well. I've been prettified, and finally, a few months ago, felt brave enough to set boundaries. I've not been nice to my dad because I didn't give him my address a few months ago. My dad asked for my address and said he'd stop by without warning, as he always does. I told him not to do. I hated it. He brushed it off. I never gave him my address to keep my peace and quiet. I shouldn't have said anything about my stepmother and should think about the consequences it has on the whole family. That my words have been too harsh. My reply: I didn't tell him his wife was a fucking bitch, even though it's my opinion, so no, I haven't been too harsh. It changes everything for everyone. I should be more thankful to my parents. I shouldn't be so hard and let people have their way, or I should have spoken before. My version: I've never been brave enough to talk my truth. Both my brothers have had the chance to live their lives. I was the one behind, taking care of my mom, and basically being her parent. I have a right to decide for myself. I can refuse calls after 8 p.m., decide who I want in my home, say no when I don't want things to happen. I needed therapy because I've been complacent with everyone my whole life. I finally deserve a chance to live my own life, and I'm setting my rules. Accept them, don't discuss them, and either stay or leave. After having had my brother on the phone, I decided to call my dad. Apparently he understood that I didn't want to see him with his wife anymore. What I meant was, I don't want her in my home. I told my dad that my home was my safe space, and I didn't want people I wasn't comfortable around in it. He laughed, said he loved me, but my reasoning was stupid. I told him she hurt me, and I made a list if he wanted examples. He laughed about me making a list. I gave examples. He excused them all, said I exaggerated. According to him, I was well treated. She didn't beat me or abused me. I was fed. And she did things for me. He couldn't give me a single example of what she did for me. He didn't care about anything on the list from my previous post, brushed it off. Even when I told him, he never defended me. He said I was still his daughter. He loved me but wasn't going to see me without his wife, that we would call anyway. He added that his wife has been crying for days about it, like WTF. He told me I should have talked to her. I told him I never felt safe enough to talk to her face to face. But I could call her. Now, should I call her to tell her why I basically hate her? I just can't decide. It'd be liberating and nobody could use the argument, you should be an adult and talk to her directly. But at the same time it feels weird to call someone why you hate them. I've always been conflict avoidant, so this is all so new to me. Relevant comments. How old was OOP's brothers when their parents got divorced? Reply: my brothers are 10 and 13 years older than me. They were 16 and 18 when my parents got a divorce. OOP should not give out her address to her dad. Reply: good thing my dad doesn't even know where the house is. My brothers know my current address. If they give it to my dad and he comes here unannounced, it'd be very clear that I'll go. NCOP responds to a comment on why she was spending so much of her time and energy on her father. Reply: I don't really know what I want as an end result. Since I've been 16, I've spent less and less time with my father as I couldn't stand my stepmother. Last year, I've probably seen him like 4 times. I don't think I really want a relationship with him. All I've ever wanted was avoid the family drama and make sure I had someone I could count on for manual stuffs in case I needed a hand. Looks like I can't count on him, so I don't see the point of trying anymore. I'll simply go really low contact. I won't be the one calling next time, and I'll see what happens. I just don't really care at that point. Update 2. Aita 4. Telling my dad that I don't like his wife after 20+ years knowing her? I followed the huge majority of your advice and didn't call my stepmother. I didn't reach out to her or my dad. My wife. And I sent our "we said yes" cards to announce that we got married. We only invited our 6 close friends and celebrated in a villa, 2 hours from home. We sent a total of 10 cards to family members. Here are the reactions so far. Everything is translated since I'm French. My dad, he surprisingly had the best reaction on my side. He texted me, "Thank you for the card. Be happy. Hugs and kisses." My mother called me crying, saying that I hurt her. She wished we had told her beforehand and was disappointed to learn it this way. She said she would have understood if I had said I was only inviting friends. She added that she needed time to process it. She canceled our dinner last night. I said I understood but still stood my ground by saying we had the wedding we wanted, and that it wasn't personal. My wife's mother texted us to congratulate us, and added that we looked great in our wedding gowns. My sister-in-law, oldest brother's wife, I've known her since I was 2, texted me a horrible text. She said she wouldn't thank me for the card and she wouldn't keep it. That I was using the best method to cut all ties with my family. She didn't mind not being invited but would have wanted us to tell her beforehand. She talked on the phone with my mom before Mom called me, and she would have been happy for us if we had done so. She added that I was an adult but I still needed to reflect on my decisions to really make sure I was making the right ones. She then sent another text to say that it was only coming from her, not my brother or my 3 teenage nieces. My response was pretty firm, saying how I find her text disgusting and unfair. She had no right to talk to me in such a harsh way. that I don't ask for opinions about my choices, and that I didn't question their choice when they chose to move to the other side of the country. I was simply happy for them and gave them my support when everybody was questioning their choices. My brother, her husband, just texted me that it was surprising to learn the news via a card, but he kinda knew it was the way we were going. He said that we looked beautiful in the photos, and really happy as well. He advised me to not go NC with those who love me. One of my nieces, their oldest daughter, we're pretty close. She's 17. Texted me saying we looked lovely in our pictures, and she's super happy for us. She said she would have liked to share our joy on the big day, but totally understood that it was our day, and we deserved to decide how it went. She added that my brother hid the card so it wouldn't be thrown away. It really helped me feel better. I'm still waiting on my other brother's reaction. The one who called me last time, also one of Aunt's, but she's super cool, I'm not worried. My wife is waiting on her grandparents and her aunts. Here is the reason why we didn't want to tell anyone. We found it cocky to tell people, we're getting married but you're not invited. Also, my mom is a pro at guilt tripping me. She says she would have liked to know, but I'm 100% she would have tried to change my mind. She would have texted on D-Day something like, enjoy your day. Still very sad to not be part of it. But that's your decision. All my family would have talked behind my back. They do it about everybody, and negativity would have ensured before our big day. We didn't want to take any risk of negative comments being made. We chose to send cards to make it more official. We printed cards with pictures and sealed it my golden wax. We didn't want just to tell them on the phone. Also, I can't tell one thing to a family member without them calling the other immediately to talk about it. Telling them one by one would have meant taking the risk to let somebody else announce it. I'm sure they'd say they wouldn't do it, but I don't trust them anymore. I really don't think any of them would have been happy for us if we had told them beforehand. I think that they're hurt. They were not part of it, but it's easier to blame it on something else. Additional information from OOP. Thank you for all you kind comments. Some of you were kind of lost about why I didn't invite my parents to my wedding or let them know beforehand. First, we wanted the day to be about us, not a family dinner. We didn't want anyone to crash the party and enjoy life as we always do, with our close friends. But for those who were interested in the DRA behind all that, here it is. I didn't understand my childhood traumas and abuse before therapy. My wife saw them and warned me, but it took time for me to realize that she was right. I've always felt like my dad wasn't there. The only support I've had from him was child support and big gifts. Don't get me wrong. I loved that he bought me a car at 18, but I would have preferred having had a real relationship with him. He was passive and knows absolutely nothing about me. He's let my stepmother be an ass to me, call me fat, make homophobic comments during my teenage years, make me feel like I wasn't fitting in, not being good enough. She hated that I was an introvert and made me dance at parties, go out with my stepsister's friends, etc. I hated having to see her. On the other hand, after my parents' divorce, I was 5. I've always felt responsible for my mother. She was really sad, possibly depressed, but I couldn't see it my child eyes. She relied on me for emotional support. I felt responsible for her happiness, and to not leave her alone. She always felt so lonely, and I was the one who was in charge of being there. Deep down, I was always afraid she'd commit suicide. I don't know if she ever made a comment about that, but I felt dreadfully afraid that it could happen, and I needed to be there for her. Her boyfriend lived with us for 5 years. I was 12 when he moved in. They got into bad arguments, which could end up to be physical. I was always ready to jump at him if needed, even though I never got to. When I grew up and moved out, if I didn't call her twice a week, she'd call and say, "If you don't call, I don't talk to anyone." Or, "I could be dead, and nobody would know." That meant going home on weekends as a student, spending holidays with her, making sure she had enough food on the table. She did, but always complained about finances. So I tried to help. Things got better with my mom when she got a new boyfriend, around 3 years ago. She doesn't demand as much but is still bad with boundaries. They broke up in November and she was all over my back again, calling me at 7:30 p.m. because my aunt had bought a new headset and Bluetooth wasn't working, calling saying that her bank app wasn't working of her computer, but it'd work her on her phone, and saying stuffs like, "Well, you know, it'll find a way." It's really annoying though. If only I had someone to fix it. Mind you, I'm 1 hour away. My brother, 10 years older, is 30 minutes away. But you know, he has a family and I don't. She wouldn't like to bother him. It was so intense that every time she called, about 4 times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, I'd feel anxiety mount up and feel sick to my stomach. It kinda always was this way anyway. If she called because I hadn't called before, there was a chance for her to make a not-so-nice comment about the fact that I didn't call. And after years of guilt-tripping, it didn't take much to make me feel guilty. I don't know if my brothers ever got it, though, if they had seen it. For example, for Christmas, we bought my mom a new phone. My wife helped me choose one. I ordered it, wrapped, and left in a bag at my mom's. They were spending Christmas at my oldest brother's. I was with my wife's family, and stayed there for 3 days. Mind you, none of my brothers, they wives, or my teenage nieces helped my mom set up the phone. Though, I'd do it anyway when she got back. I have to drive 1 hour back and forth each time. To add insult to injury, when I called to wish them a Merry Christmas, after 2 minutes on the phone, I was talking to my brother. My mom interrupted us to ask me if I remember her email password, which I had changed a week prior when I had to go to her place to help because she couldn't check her emails for 3 days. As if her request was more important than me talking with my brother. The oldest brother agrees that it hasn't been easy on me. He should have taken care of the phone, and that my mom can be a lot. My other brother thinks I'm mean for not letting my mom call after 8 p.m. or that I don't answer my phone when I watch a movie at home because it upsets my mom. So, understanding all this in therapy was hard. I made me feel like an orphan. I don't want to offend anyone, like I didn't have any parents. Most of my grandparents died when I was under 7, and I lost my grandmother in October. It took me some time to get over that feeling of not having parents. Somehow they feel more like a chore. I know they love me, but they don't understand how hard it is on me. I'm so thankful for my wife. She truly saved me by showing me that my relationships with my family wasn't healthy, that I was free to do things my way if I wanted to. She's been so patient but harsh when needed to be. She's a true lifesaver, and I'm sure that's why my family don't really like her. She set the spotlight on what was wrong. She's helped me out of the rocking boat. I'm currently reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, and realize that my mom is an emotional parent, and my dad is a passive parent. If anyone has reviews about the book, feel free to tell me. Stories number 4. Aita for refusing to have anything to do with my mother after she abandoned me for 10 years, then came back and spitefully said my dad wasn't my dad after letting him raise me solo. My 20M parents were young when they dated, and mother got pregnant with me. They broke up during the pregnancy, and my mother called dad to the hospital, and she left me with him, and said she wasn't interested in parenting, and since he could do it. She did nothing for me for the next 10 years. There was no contact, no child support, and yes, my dad pursued it, no nothing. My dad did it all. He was on his own and committed to raising me. There were times I asked him about my mother, and he tried to stay neutral with a slightly positive leaning on her, just because he didn't want me to hate myself for being half her. He wanted to nurture confidence and security in me, and as much as I hate her today, I appreciate him doing it because I was sort of fragile as a kid emotionally, and I think the insecurity and self-loathing would have been bad if I had known just how awful she was. A few weeks after I turned 10, my mother shows up and acts like she can just start playing supermom. She told dad she wanted to take me and raise me now and didn't want to fight over it. She told me I was going to move in with her, and I fought back and said I wanted to stay with dad, and she was a stranger. Then when she wasn't getting her way, she told us dad wasn't my real dad anyway, and I was someone else's bio kid, so I didn't belong with him. She said it for pure spite, but also because she thought dad would dump me on the spot. Until we got the DNA test, I was in pieces over that. I felt guilty because dad raised me not knowing. I didn't want to have a different dad or lose him. He spent ages reassuring me he would be my dad no matter what, and I was his son no matter what, and he loved me, but I was expecting someone to come between us the rest of the time. I was so sure my mother would find the actual guy, and he'd take me away, or they both would. But a DNA proved that I was dad's kid. He paid for it privately just because he wanted me to be comforted, and deep down he believed I was his, even if he was sick at the thought of my mother telling the truth. We don't know if she had doubts about who was my father, but she was wrong that Dad was 100% not my dad. She disappeared again after the DNA results, and she was pissed. She acted like I was supposed to jump into her arms and run away with her, even though she was a stranger, and even the way she talked to me showed she would have been a shitty mother. It was only 2.5 months ago that she showed up again. She moved to town with her husband and his 2 little kids. They made a point of stopping by mine and Dad's house and introducing him and the kids. They said his kid's mom died, and my mother was going to be their mom now, and we'd be siblings and we should be a family. I told them I wanted nothing to do with her or any of them, and I told her after what she did, she had audacity to come back and act like I'd ever want anything to do with her. She argued that it was 10 years ago and she's grown. I said she could fuck off and die in a hole because she was a spiteful bitch and unworthy of being called a mom. Dad told them they needed to leave. My mother's husband was willing to go because he didn't like our attitude apparently, but she acted offended and was trying to linger. She approached me a few times since, and I have ignored her completely. She told me I should hear her out and give her a chance. Her husband was there one of those times and he was saying shit about me and how much of a monster I am for the fuck off, and die in a whole comment because I want his kids to lose 2 mothers and be motherless twice before they're 5. I ignored them still, but the comments bother me a little because I want to scream that they should move away if they don't like it, but I know I can't make them leave. And I know I haven't heard her side. I don't want to hear it. I don't want a relationship or anything to do with her ever. But does that make me TA? And I'm the same age my parents were when I was born. I feel too young for kids, but I would never fuck my kid over the way she did me. She was 30 when she did that. Like WTF. She wasn't a kid anymore, and she didn't give a shit about what it did to me. She didn't give a shit what it did to Dad, even though he was on his own with me and had 0 support from her. Comments? Commenter 1. NTA. Protect your peace. There's nothing she could say that would justify her abandonment. Reply. The abandonment isn't her worst crime anymore. She outdid that when she tried turning my world upside down when I was 10. Commenter 2. NTA. Next time she tries to talk to you, just completely blank her and walk away. She does not deserve any of your time. Reply. That's what I'm already doing. I don't look at or acknowledge her. I keep walking and I don't slow down until I can no longer hear her. There was a time I even turned around and went back the way I came just to get away from her easier. Commenter 3. I think you may be able to sue her for the 18 years of back child support. Look into it, and if you can go after her, maybe that will make them move away. NTA. Commenter 4. I would venture a guess her new husband has no idea what she did to you. So tell him. I'm sure that may change his impression. Reply. He does. He heard it all that time we showed up and he still thinks I'm a monster. Stories number 5. I don't get why my best friend's boyfriend acts like he's in a contest yesterday. My best friend celebrated her 23rd birthday. She asked me to bring my boyfriend, since she had not met him yet. It was a small get-together at her house with a few close friends, my boyfriend, and her boyfriend who we were meeting for the first time. At first, everything was fine. We were chatting and drinking. Then came introductions. Her boyfriend gave off a smug vibe right away. He said, I am a businessman and I just came from one of my investors, but I still managed to come here since it is my girlfriend's event. When it was my boyfriend's turn, he kept it simple and normal. That is when things started to get weird. All night, her boyfriend kept cutting my boyfriend off and disagreeing with him. If my boyfriend mentioned travel, sports, music, or even a random movie, her boyfriend would argue or brag like he was trying to one-up him. At one point, my boyfriend shared a small work achievement and her boyfriend laughed, saying, That is nothing. I have done way bigger deals than that. The whole vibe turned awkward. My best friend even tried to change the subject, but he would not stop. My boyfriend stayed calm and polite, which made me proud. But I could tell he was uncomfortable, and so was everyone else. Instead of celebrating, her boyfriend turned her birthday into his own ego trip. Comments. Commenter 1. Deep down inside, the boyfriend is just insecure. Commenter 2. He is in a contest. The bad part is, he does not realize he is the only contestant, and he thinks he is competing with everyone else. Seinfeld may call him a 1-upper. Commenter 3. This guy has a serious case of Napoleon syndrome. Stories number 6. AITA for changing my mind about my wife being a Sam since she changed the terms. I 35M have been with my wife Allie 37F for 2 years. Married for 1 and we are expecting our first child together in a few months. I also have 2 children 8M and 6F from a previous relationship with Alex 32F. And we have 50/50 custody. However, Alex travels a lot for work so we have the kids more than that most of the time, so we get child support from her. Before we got married, Allie and I spoke extensively about what we wanted, and she was adamant about being a stay-at-home mom. I was upfront with her that I was fine with that. We'd be able to afford it, but she would need to be a SM for all of the kids to be able to make it work. She agreed happily. So as you can probably predict, she sat me down the other day and told me that she wants, at minimum, her first year as a mom to only be a Sam to our shared baby. She said after that she can help out more with the other kids, but wants to protect her first-time motherhood, and said it's her #1 boundary. I told her that would no longer work. Then, I couldn't support a family of 5 on just my salary without help with all of the kids. She said I needed to figure it out and respect her boundaries, but this simply won't be possible. We have family to help for sure, but she's saying she doesn't want to be responsible for the older kids at all the first year. Also, we want at least 1 more child, and I'm now worried she'll try to extend the year with another baby. She's incredibly hurt and angry, but I don't think it would even be possible to respect her boundaries. So would I be the asshole for reneging on my promise to let her be a stay-at-home mom? Quick edit. My ex-wife will be keeping the kids for 2 weeks after birth and has been able to be assured she wouldn't travel for that first month of emergencies come up. I am also paying the person I currently am who picks up, watches, drops off, etc. the kids before and after school, an additional 4 weeks after Alex already has them for 6 full weeks off from any older kid duties. For Allie. Comments, commenter 1, NTA. Aren't the older 2 in school? So realistically, she would have the entire school day just her and the baby. She's being ridiculous. She can either enjoy several hours each day alone with her kid and parent her stepchildren after school as agreed, or she can put her baby in daycare and miss out on all those hours while she gets a job. Reply. Yes, but they'd need to be taken to and picked up from school / taken to their activities while I'm at work. I currently pay somebody to do this, but with a new baby and without her salary I won't be able to. Edit. Stop asking about buses. This is a private school, no buses. Last edit. X pays for the school tuition, and I would never take my kids out of a school they love just so she could be a stay-at-home mom to 1 out of 3 kids. Commenter 2. She needs to see the math and know that what she wants is not possible. She also needs a dictionary because that, not a boundary, it's a demand. A boundary is not something that can dictate anyone else's behavior. Reply. Yes, I have shown her the numbers, but she wants me to make it work. Commenter 3. How? She's being unreasonable and at the expense of your older children. I'm angry for you. Commenter 4. She married you with eyes wide open, fully aware that you already had children, and that 2 incomes would be necessary to support the blended family. She may want something different now than she thought she would, but she needs to put on her big girl granny britches and uphold her agreement, vow, and responsibilities. That's just basic decency. Commenter 5. OP said in another comment that she's going on about nachoing, which is a term used by step-parent communities to mean not your kids, not your responsibility. But instead of something like not wanting to discipline or contribute financially, she's going all the way to end of the nacho spectrum where she wants 0 responsibilities for the 2 kids, cause she explicitly wants time alone with her bio kid for a year. So she says, I don't think this kind of rhetoric came out of nowhere. It also tells me her goal isn't as innocent as wanting to bond with her baby either. This is about her feelings towards being a step-parent to those kids. Commenter 6, NTA. But if this is how she treats your children, I suspect at some point it will cause another divorce. When you marry into a blended family, you take on those responsibilities. And how does it even work? Does she only cook supper for 3 of you? Expect before and after school care for your kids that you have to pick them up from. It doesn't make a logistical sense. Commenter 7. This. Your first priority is your kids, including the two that you brought into the relationship. This sends a terrible message to them, that their stepmom doesn't want them around, and it almost guarantees they will have a poor relationship with her and their new sibling. If she expresses concern about the workload, you could work with that, but it really sounds like she doesn't want to be bothered with your kids or have them detract from her experience as a new mom. That's a huge red flag. NTA. And I have a bad feeling about your marriage. Commenter 8. NTA. Your kids are in school most of the day. MF, I'd assume. That gives her 9 months to have the days with her baby, and evenings and weekends she'll have your help. But I'm more concerned about the dynamic she's setting up. Her baby versus your kids. Your children will feel this dynamic very deeply, if they don't already. She will make them feel like outsiders in their own home. She will make them feel like this baby isn't really their real sibling. This has disaster written all over it, and you need to shut this down immediately. You're headed for another divorce, I'm afraid. Her mask has slipped. Commenter 9. Yes, this absolutely reads like wife got pregnant and decided she only wanted to be a SM to her real child. Commenter 10. You're spot on. She's essentially saying she's only a mom to the one she carried, which is a horrible precedent to set. The older kids are going to pick up on that immediately. Reply, I agree, and it's so far out of left field. She loves the kids, and they love her. She always loves doing things with them and planning activities. I wouldn't have married her if she didn't like Rem. Commenter 11. No, you're not wrong. In fact, I would bet money that she planned this the whole time. She knew she didn't want to watch them, but it was the only way to get you to agree. So she said she would, and she probably intended to wait till after the baby was born and tell you it was too much work, and she just couldn't take care of the other two. But somewhere along the line she got cocky and decided she can get away with telling you now. Or maybe she's impatient. I don't actually know, but either way I'm pretty sure this was always her intention. There quote S. The possibility that she didn't realize that you as a family wouldn't be able to afford paying somebody to take them and pick them up. And she thought her involvement was going to be a couple minutes in the morning and then after school, when you'll likely be around for the bulk of the time. She found out that she actually has to parent all the kids in order to be a stay-at-home parent. But that is still her planning on taking no real responsibility for your kids. Normally, I would just suggest explaining the finances and maybe some counseling, but people who are manipulative don't normally admit it in therapy. So even in counseling, I don't think the truth will come out. I don't know what to tell you to do, but this is messed up, and you have every right to not want to work yourself to death for her to stay home with one kid and basically ignore your other two, who will definitely feel replaced. Parents that care about their children worry about the older child feeling pushed out by the baby. This chick actually wants to push the older kids out for the baby. Most parents do everything they can to minimize the older child or children being ignored or not prioritized. Your wife is making a point to do it. Now let's add in the fact that they're not her kids. They are going to instantly feel replaced and hate that baby if she's allowed to act like this. This will break your family up. I quote M. Here, because your story is on Reddit Storyline 101 on FB. They use the exact same headline pretty much, so I just put it in the Reddit search and found you super easy and click your profile, since the original one was taken down, then found this one, but it is also in a repost sub now. So just letting you know people you know might see it soon. Reply. Yeah. I've basically confronted her and told her that her options are, she keeps working. I'm willing to support her for her 12 weeks of unpaid FMLA. But after that, the baby would go to the not free but heavily subsidized daycare on-site at my work, and everything else stays the same. She doesn't go back to work, and we continue paying the nanny who takes the kids to / picks up and watches the kids after school. However, this will take up all of her fun money I have allocated in our new budget. Right now she waits tables some weekends and evenings to make extra money. I'm fine with her continuing to do that, to make money for the extra stuff she wants to buy. Thanks to all the comments on Reddit. I told her I'm not longer comfortable with the idea of her being a Sam to my kids. She can work on rebuilding that, and I know my kids still love her, but a lot of comments opened my eyes. She's completely devastated and even tried arguing that I should stop putting money into my kids' college funds so as not to take away her Fun money? Or even more deranged, asking my ex-wife to take the kids out of their private school, to save the money we pay towards it, uniforms and activities. Just the idea of asking that from my ex is insane. So she's currently being pretty cold towards me. Not the kids, though, and I'm just so over it. We have a therapist appointment Tuesday, so hopefully that will help, but she's really fucked. With my trust in her with this. Update, edit. To add one quick thing. I've known Allie since freshman year biology. We never dated until a few years ago, but we've always remained friends. I have known her, and this behavior is also new. She loved being a bonus mom, would be excited for the kids to come over for extra time, and would even ask me to ask my ex if she could have them randomly if she wanted to take a day off and go swimming or to the zoo or something. I've asked her for all to her doctor about this, and she's yelled at me about it. I have no clue to what to do. I posted on another sub, but they locked and removed it for violating a rule that honestly I don't think it did. So YOLO, you can find the other post on my profile. But the gift of it is that my wife Allie and I had multiple discussions about her being a SAM to our future kids, in addition to my 2 kids from my previous marriage to Alex. However, she recently told me that she wanted the first year of our upcoming baby's life to be just a SAM to the baby, and I told her that wouldn't work for me or our budget. I talked to Allie and laid everything out. I told her that her demands were out of line and incredibly entitled, and that if she insisted on keeping them, I was no longer comfortable with her quitting her job and would not support it. Further, 2 weeks without my kids was ridiculous, so I told her that if she went into labor during our custody time, my parents would have the older kids when we were in the hospital. But I am not longer comfortable sending my kids away to their moms for 2 weeks. Other families don't normally do that, and I would not either. But, for the first 2 months of us having the baby, I would keep paying the nanny and take care of the older kids' things, which is longer than I had originally agreed. Honestly, it was also more than she'd even originally agreed to, so I thought it was a fair compromise. She lost her mind and flipped out at me, told me that I wasn't respecting her first-time motherhood, WTF, and that she shouldn't have to care for kids I didn't give birth to for the first year of her baby's life. I was honestly over it at this point and done arguing. I told her she needed to check herself, and that none of this was new or a surprise. If she didn't want to do it, she shouldn't have agreed to it, and her being a stay-at-home mom was off the table. To be clear, I know I could make it work with just my salary, but it would mean taking the funds I would allocate towards her fun money for things like shoeing, self-care, etc. And I'm not comfortable telling an adult dependent on me financially that she couldn't have a choice for fun money. I showed her the budget, which backfired because she said that I didn't need to defund her fun money and gave me a few solutions, which were take the older kids out of private school and ask my ex to give us that money in child support. Instead, stop putting money into my older kids' college fund, selling my boat. Those were her solutions, none of which have her sacrificing anything, only me and or my kids. And the first one was so unreasonable I could only imagine how that conversation with my ex would go. She'd laugh me out of the country lol. I told Allie all of that was unreasonable and a non-starter, and honestly just made me see where her priorities are. So yeah, I told her that if she couldn't agree to common-sense compromises, I could no longer trust her to be a SAM to our older kids, that there was zero daylight in how much I cared about my older kids versus our shared baby, and had to protect them both equally. The fact that she thought it was reasonable to stop saving for my older kids' college while still giving her money for Botox and highlights showed me where her priorities would lie if she no longer brought in income. I said I was no longer comfortable with her quitting her job, and that since my work has not free but heavily reduced daycare on site, that would be the best option for our family after her FMLA leave. She doesn't get paid maternity leave, just unpaid up to 3 months, which will be fine. She's devastated and being cold towards me, but surprisingly, not my kids, which is good. I don't want to kill her dreams of being a SAHM, but I can't work with someone who refuses to be reasonable. We discussed it with our therapist last week, who wasn't exactly on my side obviously, but was trying to point out the unfairness, and she just keeps saying she needs me to prioritize her needs and boundaries. The therapist even tried explaining that these are not boundaries, but she's not listening. So in summary, I tried reasoning with my wife. She tried convincing me to stop saving for college, for the older kids to pay for their nanny, so she could only be a SAHM to our shared baby. And I told her I no longer thought it would work for her to be a SAHM. She's devastated, but we're working it out with our therapist, and I'm hoping this is all just hormones. Comments. Commenter 1. Please go see a lawyer and figure out how to protect you and maybe making other college funds into a trust, so can't be touched, etc. She is going to stay home with the baby no matter what, and will start rejecting your bio kids when she doesn't get her way. Reply. My kids' college and savings are in trusts. We had a prenuptial agreement as well, so I'm not too worried about. Commenter 2. I'd divorce her before she can reasonably argue in court that you have to pay inflated child support and alimony. Commenter 3. Totally agree. She shouldn't have to care for kids I didn't give birth to for the first year of her baby's life. This right here is the big fat warning sign that OP would be an idiot to ignore. Commenter 4. NTA, but you should plan that she will quit her job anyway to force you to accept her being a SOM. Commenter 5. She 100% will. OP should work with his lawyer to prepare an amendment to the prenup that states that she is aware that OP has not agreed and will not agree to her becoming a SAHM, that should she cease working, there will be no allowance, that in the event of divorce, any support will be calculated based on her prior salary, and she is not entitled to any increased support as a SHM. If she won't sign, have it witnessed that she was made aware of those terms but refused to sign. Paper it with your lawyer so she has no room to claim entitlement to SAHM level support, either during or after the marriage. Also, mentally prepare that you may need to divorce or seek annulment. At this point, Occam's razor says she's been playing a long game and actually is as awful as she seems. She just hit it well. Do you have trusted female friends who spend time with her? I would talk to them if I were you. I personally can sense a con a mile away, and many women are pretty good at spotting these three types. A. The money initially attracted her, but she genuinely loves the guy too. B. Fake and in it totally for the money, but not put to hurt anyone. And C. Fake and narcissistic. She sounds like a C so far, but maybe those who have met her and have good people sense would have a different take. Commenter 6. NTA. I have a blended family, have a baby and 2 stepdaughters with my husband. Not even for 1 minute after I gave birth did I bar my stepdaughters from being here, or would ever do so. This is as much their home as it is mine, my son's. She is being very unreasonable. You are offering viable common-sense solutions, and honestly being very generous with fun money. I've never been a SAHM, but I would be gracious. I hope for your sake this is just hormones. But I'm also pregnant and know when my hormones are getting the best of me. Hope you guys work this out. She sounds very selfish. When you marry someone with children, you kind of lose the option to be a one-child parent your first go round. She should take your feelings and care for your older children as a good sign that her baby will be well cared for by you. Reply. This is how she used to talk. She is weirdly still excited about the kids meeting the new baby but keeps talking about bizarre boundaries. You seem like a good stepmom. I know it's probably not an easy thing, and I tell her that all the time. Luckily, our blended family has had no drama until this. My ex and her husband have been very supportive of us having more kids, and have been willing to help, but she keeps saying they need to do more. Commenter 7. Looks like divorce too is fast approaching. Reply. I'm hoping to avoid that. She's never been like this, and it's so far out the norm I even asked her to talk to her doctor about it, but she thinks she's just being reasonable and setting boundaries. Stories number 7 AIO for wanting to break up with my BF after how he acted while I was meeting his parents. I've been dating my BF 28M for 2 years. On off. This weekend I drove up to meet his parents for the first time, 2 hours from me. I brought flowers and dressed nicely. When I arrived, he kind of scoffed at me for bringing flowers. When I arrived, his parents greeted me and they were very sweet. We hugged and sat in the living room to chat. BF and I sat on the couch and his parents each sat in chairs. We talked for 2 hours, and during that time my BF hardly said anything, multiple times would scroll Insta or Facebook, even sat back with his eyes closed, practically napping. I had a nice time chatting with his parents, but I felt really disrespected, and I kind of felt his parents were put off by him too. I was embarrassed, and it was stressful for me to carry the whole interaction. We had dinner with his parents' friends that evening, and they were all so lovely, and we had a great time for 4 hours. But even during dinner, my BF would bring his phone out to scroll, instead of converse. I left my phone in my purse the whole evening. I also caught a few times where his mom was reminding him to say, "Please and thank you" to the hosts. Because it was a long drive for me, it was planned that I would spend the night. In the morning he was going to leave the bedroom a mess with his towels on the floor and bed unmade, etc. Before I tidied up, I wouldn't treat my parents' home like that. I just feel really put off by his behavior and want to end things with him, AIO. Comments. Commenter 1. Nor. Your BF sounds like a teenager. You've been dating on-off for 2 years, and this was the first time meeting the parents? Seems like you have a lot to think about. Commenter 2. You're not overreacting. Meeting the parents is a big deal, and it's natural to expect your partner to show basic respect, pay attention, engage in conversation, and help with small courtesies. If you ended up carrying the entire social interaction while he scrolled on his phone and ignored basic manners, that says a lot about how he values your time and the effort you put in. Wanting to end things isn't dramatic. It's realizing your standards and boundaries matter. A partner who consistently shows disrespect in situations that matter isn't someone you have to stay with. Add in a comment, "Hey guys, thanks so much for the comments back, I appreciate it. He has shown me some disrespect in the past and I called him out on it, but I was kind of surprised he was so disrespectful in front of his parents. Maybe you are right, and this was his way of signaling to them I'm not important." It was very confusing to me though, because 2 weeks ago he introduced me to a big group of his friends, and in front of them he was bragging me up heavy, saying I knew all the right gifts to get him. He was wearing a shirt I bought him, and was very heavy on the PDA. So I thought this would go well with his parents. He kept telling me he wanted me to meet them. And his parents seemed to love me, and even though he had to leave to go to work the next day, they wanted me to stay and go boating with them, haha. I asked to talk to him tomorrow about the weekend, so I can see from his perspective why he was behaving like this. I will update later. Commenter 3. I think everyone above had insightful comments. Either there is more to the story and he needs to fill you in, or he's really just not a mature human being and is kind of a dick. Either way, these are red flags and you're right to follow your gut. It sounds like he doesn't appreciate the people around him, and I'm glad you're noticing that and not cool with it. Stories number 8. Husband says he only just realized how much I do yesterday. A salesperson for Scottish Power came to the door, and my husband answered. They complimented the garden and asked if my husband managed it, to which he said, "No, my wife does." Then the salesperson asked if he was the person who dealt with energy bills, to which he said, "No, my wife does." The salesperson then joked, if his wife manages everything, and my husband said it rubbed him the wrong way. Ironically, he then asked me to help talk to the salesperson, but I gave advice and let him handle it because I've had to deal with salespeople from the same company several times before, and it was his turn. This morning he said he had been ruminating about it overnight and realized in the process that I do manage everything: water, gas, electricity, internet, council tax, service charge, etc. He said that all he does is manage the car, although saying that I am the one who keeps on top of the parking permit and generally reminds him about the MOT each year, and that he can't even do that right because he forgot about the MOT and had it done 3 weeks late this year. My husband said he realized that it's not a fair division of labor, and he wants me to hand over some of the life admin tasks to him to manage, so they are more equally divided. I was pleased to hear this at first, but the more I think about it, the more pissed off I get. There have been times in the past when I've brought this stuff up, but he hasn't agreed with my perspective, and because I'm someone who doubts themselves, I've dropped it. There have been times when he has been angry at me for not doing more to help manage car-related tasks, and I've tried to respond by explaining that I already take on too many tasks, and that car management tasks are his contribution, and he's refused to accept that's the case. There have been times when he's been upset with me that I don't take on enough in our relationship, and I've tried to explain how exhausted I am from work. I am in a more senior role with more pressure than him, and earn more. While he often complains about how easy and boring his job is, and that I'm burnt out from having so much responsibility at home too, but he's refused to accept that, and says it's just an excuse. And every time I doubt myself and end up apologizing for it, and promising to do better, we quote, "We been together for 12 years, and married for 7, and he's only now just seeing how much I do, because of a comment made by a door-to-door salesperson. And all this time I've doubted myself, and assumed that I'm the one not pulling their weight because of my own lack of self-esteem, and his lack of acknowledgement and gaslighting. YTF. And I still treat him kindly and with love, agreeing to hold his hand through learning how to be a fucking adult by actually picking up our household's life admin tasks. What is wrong with me? I want to say all this to him, but I know if I do it'll make him react in a way that will make me back down. How do I do this productively and give myself the strength to hold my ground? I've always been terrible at advocating for myself, but for whatever reason can easily do it for other people. I just can't believe I've married someone who can't recognize that. And he says he's a feminist. Sorry to rant, but I just really needed to get this all out somewhere. Comments. Commenter 1. This sounds like a great set of things to talk about in marriage counseling. Too often we think of marriage counseling as a thing you do when your marriage is in danger. But it can be a safe space to talk about hard things, and to make logistical plans that will make your emotional life better. Commenter 2. There have been times when he has been angry at me for not doing more to help manage car-related tasks, and I've tried to respond by explaining that I already take on too many tasks, and that car management tasks are his contribution, and he's refused to accept that's the case. I quote, want to talk about this. Is he going to be mad at you for not helping him manage his new life administration tasks? Commenter 3. It seems like it took not just a random door-to-door salesperson but a man. He hasn't listened to you once over 12 years on the exact same topic, but he listened to a random man about it. That would bother me too. I don't have any advice on how to ask him except, hey, I've been thinking about it. Why did you listen to a random dude over me telling you the same thing for 12 years? Because I'm just as frustrated as you are reading this. Stories number 9. My 31F husband 30M did not get me anything for my birthday because it was too much pressure. We've only been married since December but been together for 3 years, and have known each other for 5. He quote is one of the nicest people I've ever known, and he's gone out of his way to help me even before we were dating. He knows how important my birthday is to me, but he's always not cared about his. This year, because I know it's difficult for him, I started reminded him months in advance to figure out a plan and a gift. It needs to be said that my net income is about 3 times as his, so I wasn't expecting like diamonds or anything. Just like relatively cheaper stuff that I couldn't justify buying for myself. I also sent him links to things that I found cool but couldn't justify buying. Kill Bill t-shirt and some fake earrings. He got nothing. He said he was trying very hard to find something that I will like and just couldn't figure anything out. That was one fight. The second was about how he went about getting the cake. I asked him to place the order in advance because I feel more comfortable planning ahead of time. How insisted that he knew the bakery, and he could easily get the cake an hour in advance. The day before my birthday, I asked him once again if he could just place the order, and he snapped at me. At that moment, I gave up. I told him to cancel everything, and I went out with strangers and celebrated with them. He called asking if he could join, but I said no. He apparently got an emergency therapy session, and the therapist also told him that was a dick move. I know he didn't mean to hurt me, and he's been apologizing and offering to buy me whatever I want, but I'm not able to let me anger go. He knew this was important to me, and he went out of his way to ruin it for me, and I'm not able to get over it. How do we move forward from this? I need help and advice. Couples therapy is on the table, but right now I'm still too angry to have a conversation. P.S. I also plan his birthdays and get him gifts. Comments. Commenter 1. He's the nicest person you've ever known. Commenter 2. Let me get this straight. Your boyfriend has to go to emergency therapy because of the stress of buying a cake and a gift? Why is he your boyfriend? Commenter 3. Worse, he's her husband. He refused to order the cake ahead of time because he insisted he could pick one up an hour ahead of time. That sounds more stressful than just ordering one ahead of time like a sensible person. Commenter. 4. I know he didn't mean to hurt me. I question this, OP. If you give someone idiot-proof guidance on what you like, and they simply choose to ignore it, what do you think the end game is there other than to hurt you? He knew this was important to me, and he went out of his way to ruin it for me, and I'm not able to get over it. Yes. This is the key. He knew what you wanted, and he chose to do the opposite. Maybe because he enjoys the power trip of depriving you of something that would make you happy, or of making you feel devalued in small, plausibly deniable ways. The why doesn't really matter. It's deliberate passive aggression, and you shouldn't tolerate it. Stories number 10. Husband is leaving me, but won't give me a reason. Don't really know the point of this post. No advice needed, just a space to say what happened before I start telling my children and family. About 3 weeks ago, my husband and I had a long talk where he said he wasn't happy in our relationship. He didn't give me a specific reason, just that he was not happy. I asked him to put more effort in and see how we both feel after a holiday. He was taking with his friends. During the holiday. He rang me all day every day, sent messages constantly, told me he loved me at the end of every conversation. It was so good having him be like that again. Today, after a few things happening that I wasn't happy about, I asked him how he was feeling, and he said he hasn't been happy for months, and that he wanted to separate. I asked him to do couples therapy. He said no. I asked if he was 100% sure this is what he wanted. He said yes. The conversation was a couple of hours long, but that's the gist of it. He says he loves me, but he's not happy when he comes home. I said, you realize that you're not happy with dinner on the table every night, a clean house and a family that love you. I do 100% of the housework and pay half the bills. We've been together 17 years. This hurts so badly. How can he decide that he just doesn't want to be here anymore? We have 2 children. I asked him when he started feeling like this. He said it was before September. I had no clue at all. But you know what was happening at that time? My mother was dying of cancer, so I didn't pay as much attention to the relationship. I'm glad my mother didn't live to see this. She thought the world of him and she was so sure he'd never do this. I can't believe this is happening. I can't afford the house by myself, even with child support payments. I'll probably have to move in with my 70-year-old dad once my rent contract is up. He'll not be happy about me and 2 teenagers uprooting his life. But I know I can rely on him. I am so angry. Some of OP's comments. OP answers some questions. From a downvoted comment, reply, yes, I put more effort in while he was on holiday. We spoke constantly and he said I love you in every conversation, as did I. When Mom died, my mental health was all over the place. She was sick for a long time and it took me a while to get back to normal, but once I realized I had been like that, I tried to give him more attention. His parents were on a long holiday with us. They stayed for 4 months, which I think must have strained the relationship too. Although I loved them to bits and was happy to have them in my house. One night I picked my husband up from work and brought him to an Airbnb for the night, just to spend time together. That's putting effort in, right? I was looking through my WhatsApp chat with him, and we've exchanged "I love you" every day, several times a day for the past couple of weeks, including today. We've been intimate through all of this too. I was blindsided. Commenter. I can almost bet that he is cheating. And why are paying half the bills and doing all the housework? Reply, he's not cheating, not his style. I asked him if he met someone else. He said no. I've never doubted his loyalty. OP answers the person's other question. I work less hours, usually 2-3 days a week. He works between 50-60 hours a week. It made sense for me to do the housework and cooking. Commenter. You should consider working full-time. Maybe you can afford rent with a job, alimony, and child support. Reply, no alimony where I am. I will be looking at getting a better job. I work less hours in the winter, more in the summer, so my pay will go up a bit anyway. I hope I can make it work with child support. Commenter. Stop doing things for him. No laundry, dinner, etc. If he doesn't want the marriage, no gets no perks of the marriage. Reply, I won't be doing any more of it. Commenter. He said he is unhappy and your response was to tell him to put more effort in. Okay. Do you hear how that sounds? Where do your efforts fit into this? How's your sex life? I noticed you didn't mention anything about that. If you had to guess, what part of your marriage is making him unhappy? Reply, I didn't mention our sex life because it was fine. We had sex last Friday, and again on Sunday, but usually about twice a week for years. I worded it wrongly. I told him that we should both put more effort in. I also put more effort in. He hasn't been putting effort in this year at all. I asked him, how can anyone possibly be happy in a relationship that they don't put any effort into? I asked him out to lunch on Monday. He said he has no money, but let's go for coffee later didn't happen. I asked him out for lunch on Tuesday and said I'd pay. Again he said no, and again said about going out for coffee, which again didn't happen. Commenter. Until you guys stop living together, you need to try find a job with longer hours ASAP, and he will need to start doing half the household labor and looking after the kids fairly too, so you have the time to work as many hours as he gets to and get yourself financially ready to be independent. How old are the kids? Are you going to do 50/50ths custody? Reply, kids are teenagers. They'll stay with me and visit him. We already touched on this a little. Rent prices where we live are crazy high. He'll probably rent a room in a shared house, so not ideal for my kids. He also works about an hour's drive away, and he'll be looking to move closer to work so the kids won't see him during the week because of school. Commenter. He was love-bombing you during that trip. That's guilt. Is it possible he wasn't with whom he was saying he was? I wouldn't be surprised. Reply. He was with who he said he was. There was a group of 5 men. When we video chatted, I saw them and said hi, etc. Ducks are in a row anyway. We never mixed finances. And when we last moved house, I took care of everything, so it's all in my name. Only thing I'll need from him is money. We don't have anything to split or anything like that. No home ownership. We have our own cars anyway. OOP comments on a related post. April 17th, 2025, 2 weeks later. This was my life till 2 weeks ago, but 95% of the childcare. He decided he wasn't happy in the relationship and left me. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I will sure as fuck not be running about after another man. Oop comments on another post. I'm going through the same thing. First thing I did was redecorate my bedroom all pink and reclaim the space as my own. It's been just over 2 weeks. It's torture. Sorry. You're going through this. Update post. So many people commented saying that he was cheating. And he was. The full story came out a couple of months after the separation. He had been sleeping with someone from work. I just found out that he is living with her. A while ago he asked me to forgive him, and he asked if he could come home. I said no. He hurt me way too much to be able to come home. So now they live together. I'm having some sort of feelings about this, but I'm actually much happier. My house is so peaceful. I love that I live with just my kids. The freedom is unreal. Without him I can do what I want. There's no one to tell me to wash clothes, cook dinner, or expect sex. I'm 100% sure he treats his girlfriend better than how he treated me. I even got myself a boyfriend. It's early days, but he treats me unbelievably well. I'm so hopeful for the future. Thanks for reading. And to those who gave me advice and told me he was cheating. You were right. I'm glad he's gone. Some of comments. Commenter. So is your divorce finalized yet? Assuming separation and divorce are not being interchangeably used by you here. Reply. No divorce yet, we are just separated. I'll divorce him when we're able to do a no-fault one after a couple of years. If he doesn't divorce me first, that is. I'm not bothered, to be honest. It's not something I'm going to stress about right now. Commenter. Any debts he accrues will be half yours. That should be scary enough. You should divorce ASAP. Reply. I don't live in the States. It works differently here. Commenter. This is a legally stupid idea. Reply. Sure, if I lived in the States, thankfully I don't, so legally it's the best way to get a cheap divorce. We didn't own a house or anything else together. Commenter. I'm so glad you were able to keep your own place. I haven't been through it, so it is hard to understand the difficulties involved. I just see that having to move the kids is almost always mentioned as a barrier to leaving. What helped you get financially free? Reply. We had separate finances. Anyway, through my own choice, as he's terrible with money. I get some benefits, as I'm now a single mother, along with my pay raise. I'm doing pretty well financially. Commenter. How are your children taking this? Reply. Now that he's coming to see them and bringing them to his house, they are much better. It was them that told me about the girlfriend. I didn't give much of a reaction to the news, just asked if they met her, which they didn't. Commenter. They aren't upset with their father? Reply. They don't know he cheated. As far as they're aware, she's just a new girlfriend. I won't be telling them he cheated, although the truth always comes out eventually. And when they're older, I'm sure they'll figure it out, and I'll tell them the full story. Commenter. Congrats on living a peaceful life. Sounds like the breakup was a blessing. Reply. Thanks. Definitely couldn't see it at the time, but I'm so much happier now. Commenter. Did he seriously want to come home while still sleeping with her? Or was he hoping for reconciliation? Reply. I have no idea. He said he missed me and regretted everything. He only told me that he had slept with her several times, but that he wanted his family back. To be honest, I think he just wanted back to his easy life. It never would have worked. Does his girlfriend know he was cheating on you with her? She knows. Commenter. What did your family say about his cheating and moving in with her? Reply. His family were disgusted with the cheating. Like myself, they couldn't believe it. I'm really close to his mom, but we avoid talking about him, so I don't know what they think. It was my kids that told me he was living with her. My family will never forgive him. Commenter. Curious how the ex reacted when he found out OP has moved on and is dating another man. Reply. When he asked to come home, I said, no, how dare you try to upset my peace like this, and mentioned I'd been on a few dates. He said, I didn't expect you to move on so fast, but I don't judge you stories. Number 11. My sister wants me to help pay for her wedding after uninviting my girlfriend of 3 years because we're both women. I, 27F, have been with my girlfriend, Emma, 28F, for 3 years. She's not just my partner, she's part of my family in every way that matters. She's been to holidays, birthdays, family vacations, you name it. My parents know her, my siblings know her, and even though my grandparents are very conservative, I never thought it would become this kind of issue. My sister, Sarah 30F, got engaged last year. She was over the moon, and honestly I was really happy for her. I've always been close to Sarah, so naturally I was excited when she asked me to be part of the wedding planning. Emma was included from the start. She came to bridal shopping, trips, food tastings, and even helped with DIY centerpieces one weekend. Sarah would constantly say things like, I can't wait for you guys to dance at my wedding, or, Emma, I know you'll be right there on the dance floor hyping me up. So I truly believed Emma and I were welcome and celebrated. Then, a few weeks ago, the bomb dropped. My grandparents, who are deeply religious, apparently got wind that I'd be bringing Emma to the wedding. They called Sarah and basically gave her an ultimatum. If there are homosexual couples there, they won't attend. Sarah called me sobbing. She said she felt torn between family and that she didn't know what to do. At first I was sympathetic. Weddings can be stressful and family drama makes it 10 times worse. But then she asked me if Emma could just not come. She said, could you maybe just come alone? That way Grandma and Grandpa will still come. You know how much it means to me to have them there. I was stunned. Like, what? After 3 years of treating Emma like family, she wanted me to shove her aside to appease our grandparents' homophobia? I told Sarah absolutely not. Emma is not just my +1, she's my partner. If Emma isn't welcome, then neither am I. Sarah started, crying harder, saying she was in an impossible position, and just trying to keep the peace. Eventually, Sarah made her choice. She told me she couldn't risk our grandparents not coming, so she was uninviting Emma. And since I refused to come without her, I was basically uninvited too. Fast forward to now. Sarah is in full wedding mode. Invitations are out, venues booked, and she started asking family members to contribute financially. She called me last week and said, very matter-of-factly, I'm asking each sibling for $2,000 to help cover costs. Can I count on you? I literally laughed out loud. I said, Sarah, you uninvited me and my girlfriend from your wedding. Why on earth would I pay for something I'm excluded from? She got defensive. She said I was punishing her for making a hard choice, and that, as her sister, I should want to support her day regardless. She argued that she included Emma for as long as she could, but had to draw the line when it risked other family members dropping out. My parents have now gotten involved. They're begging me to just give her the money to keep the peace. They say it's only money, and that Sarah is already stressed enough without me making things harder. My dad even said, "One day when you get married, we'll all support you too." But here's the thing. Why should I support an event that literally treats my relationship as shameful? Why should I hand over $2,000 to a wedding where I'm not welcome just because my partner and I don't fit my grandparents' outdated idea of acceptable love? It feels like my family is asking me to put my money where their homophobia is. And honestly, I'd rather put that money toward a future with Emma. Maybe even our own wedding someday, where everyone is invited and loved. So, would I be the asshole if I refused to pay? Comments. Commenter 1. NTA let the bigots cough up. The money. Reply, right? If the grandparents' comfort is the priority, then they can cover the costs. Can't expect someone to fund a wedding. They're not even welcome at. Commenter 2. She shouldn't be having a wedding she can't afford, and you should never finance her being ashamed of you. NTA Commenter 3. If you give her a single penny, then you are endorsing her bigotry. Put all of the bigots in your rearview mirror. When people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. And follow my lifelong mantra to justify your sense of self-preservation. The axe may forget, but the tree remembers. Commenter 4. NTAH. I really hate when the person who has been wronged is told something just to keep the peace. Your sister made her choice, so now she deal with the consequences of her actions. Stories number 12. I overheard my fiancé admit she doesn't love me the way she loved her ex. I 26M, and my fiancé 23F have been together a little over 2 years. I proposed about 6 months ago and she said yes. I honestly thought everything was great, like, yeah, we have normal couple disagreements but nothing serious. I really believed she was it for me. Last night I was grabbing some water and she was in the bedroom talking to her sister on the phone. I swear I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I stopped dead when I heard her say this. I do love Daniel, he's safe, he's good to me, but it's not the same. Not like it was with Mark. I don't feel that passion anymore. Not with him. I love him, but not in that way. For context, Mark is her ex. The same ex who cheated on her. I just stood there in the hallway like a ghost. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. She came out of the room and saw me and instantly knew I had heard. Her face went pale. I asked her straight up, "So I'm the safe choice? Not the love of your life?" And she started crying and saying, "It's not like that, and that she loves me, but I couldn't hear anything after not like him. I feel sick. Like I've been living in some kind of lie. I thought I was her person, the one she chose above everyone else. Now I feel like I'm just the guy she settled for because the one she really wanted destroyed her. She went to bed crying. I've been sitting on the couch staring at the ring on her finger and thinking about how I thought we were building a forever together. But what's the point if I'll never be loved the way she loved someone else? I don't want to be safe. I want to be loved the way I love. I want to be someone's first choice, not their backup plan. I don't even know what to do. Do I confront her more about this? Do I just end it? Can something like this even be fixed? I'm broken. Comments. Commenter 1. Yeah, you're not the one for her. Sounds like she's just settling because you love her and treat her well and it's a safe, comfortable choice. Don't think that's something you can get out of your head living with her every day for the rest of your life. And she may just leave for the next person who does give her that spark and passion. Many people cheat because they're looking for that. It's what excites them versus what's comfortable. Commenter 2. You're young? My friend, don't waste your life on someone who doesn't love or care for you. Because it's going to hurt more later on if you decide to stay, and she just ups and leaves. Commenter 3. So tough to hear. And I'm not trying to punch you while you're down, but a 21-year-old who has been dating you for 2 years. Dude, the potential long-term success rate for marrying that young is abysmal. Sounds like she has a ton of inner work to do. She hasn't reconciled that she's attracted to toxic partners. Commenter 4. Honestly, Here is my opinion, buddy. Firstly, you should end the engagement and take back the ring for now. Secondly, you need space and time to process this alone, and more importantly to live some time apart, so both of you know whether you both want to continue with the relationship. It's shit when you find out you are not as good as the toxic ex. However, as humans we tend to look back at our past with rose-tinted glasses. And maybe being apart will let her see that actually what she remembers and feels about Mark is just her romanticizing her past. Stories, number 1,320 plus years. Married, 14 years, since her affair. Should I finally walk away? I've been sitting with this for months, and tonight, while my wife and I were watching TV and she fell asleep on the couch next to me, I just couldn't shut my brain off. I've thought about posting before but always chickened out, so here goes. I, 45M, have been married to my wife, 43F, for a little over 20 years. We met young, in our early 20s, and we had twins a few years into the marriage. They're 18 now, just starting college, and from the outside we look like the picture-perfect couple who made it. People often tell us how lucky we are, how they hope their marriage can look like ours one day. But what nobody knows is that there's been a ghost haunting our marriage for the last 14 years. Backstory. When our twins were about 4, my wife had an affair. Technically, it was a one-night stand, but the impact was devastating all the same. She came clean the very next day. I'll never forget her face when she told me. She was shaking, sobbing, couldn't even look me in the eye. She said it was the worst mistake of her life, that she'd been spiraling for a while, and she didn't want to build a marriage on lies. I'll admit something here too. While I didn't cheat, I had been neglectful. I was so focused on being dad and on my career that I stopped being her husband. She had lost her individuality. She was always the twins' mom instead of my partner, my date, my person. I didn't compliment her anymore. I didn't take her out. I didn't pay attention the way I should have. That doesn't excuse what she did. But when we sat in counseling sessions afterward, I had to face my role in creating the conditions where she felt invisible. She wanted reconciliation. She begged for it. And because we had kids, and because I did still love her, I agreed. We went to therapy. We rebuilt. I made it my mission to date my wife again. I planned little surprises, booked babysitters, took her out for dinners, made sure she felt seen. She, for her part, bent over backward to rebuild my trust. She gave me access to everything. Her phone, her email, her schedule. She showed me complete transparency. And for 14 years, on paper, we've been solid. Truly, we're affectionate. We have regular sex. We laugh together. She still cries sometimes when the topic of the affair comes up. She'll apologize, out of nowhere, years later. I've never caught her in another lie, never seen a red flag. By all accounts, she made one terrible mistake, and has spent nearly a decade and a half proving that she regrets it more than anything in her life. But here's my problem. I still can't let it go. Every so often, I'll zone out, and my brain goes back there. The images, the questions, the anger, it all resurfaces. And when it does, it's like no time has passed. I feel the resentment bubbling up like it happened yesterday. Lately, that resentment has been colliding with another factor, me. I'm in the best shape of my life. I've gotten serious about fitness in the last few years, dropped the dad bod, and for the first time since my 20s, people are noticing me again. I get compliments I never used to get. Women flirt sometimes. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me wonder, could I start fresh? Could I take this new version of me and build a relationship without the baggage of betrayal hanging over my head? Because here's the thing. 14 years is a long time. And yet, it still feels like yesterday. I don't think my wife could be any more remorseful if she tried. She's been consistent, faithful, and loving. She's never given me reason to doubt her since. She's told me more than once, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'll keep trying to earn it for the rest of my life. And yet, I don't feel whole. I look at her, and sometimes I see my partner of 20 years, who I've built a beautiful family with. Other times, I see the woman who shattered me. I don't know which vision is the truth. Now that the kids are grown and starting their own lives, The question that I've buried for years has started creeping up louder. Do I stay in this marriage, where things are objectively good but still scarred, or do I finally walk away and see what else life has to offer me? I'm not asking this lightly. Divorce would mean upending decades of shared history. It would devastate our kids, even as adults. It would hurt her, and despite everything, I don't want to hurt her. But staying feels like I'm living in a house where one room is permanently burned. You can close the door and redecorate everywhere else, but the smell of smoke never fully goes away. So, men who've been here, how do you actually let go? Can you? Or do you reach a point where you accept that forgiveness has limits, and it's okay to want a fresh start? I keep going in circles. Some days I feel grateful that we rebuilt. Other days, I feel like I'm living half a marriage because part of me is still back in 2009. I don't know if this is just me being stuck, or if this is my gut telling me I'll never truly heal unless I leave. Comments. Commenter 1. Is it really about that though, or are you hitting midlife crisis territory and using that as a justification? I don't deny you will never truly be over a betrayal. That is expected, but are you being honest with yourself now for your motivations? Commenter 2. If you really can't get past it, or if you really don't love her anymore, you might be better off starting over. But if you've hit your midlife crisis and are just looking for a reason to sleep with someone new, you might very well regret it. Commenter 3. Starting fresh is a fantasy. The dating market is a nuclear wasteland unless you have the money and looks of Henry Cavill. Commenter 4. No matter what you do, you are going to regret the next few years for the rest of your life. If you cheat on your wife, that will cause everything to fall apart. If you straight divorce her and move on, you are going to look back and realize you had it good with her. If you stay true and with her, you are always going to wonder what if. Personally, I recommend getting counseling and stay with your wife. Stories number 14, AIO, for wanting to see a therapist after wife changed the locks because I went to a baby shower? Wife and I are both 30. Tried to have our first baby for 4 failed cycles, and decided to take a break for a few cycles because we were taking it pretty hard. It's been 3 months since we tried. Meanwhile, my little sister is pregnant with her first baby, which I'm very excited for. My wife was too at first. Slide 1. First slide is me asking why she RSVP'd no to the baby shower 2 hours away without talking to me first. After talking that night, she said I could go to shower and seemed supportive. Said she was just in her feelings. Slide 2. Second slide is the week of the shower. We had therapy the next day, after which wife was once again supportive of me going. Other than saying she'd miss me, I went up a day early to spend more time with family. Nothing seemed off. Slide 3. Third slide was a bomb drop. I got at the shower. Slide 4. Fourth slide, I still don't know what fuck all happened, but she changed the locks to our house. We had a big argument when she came back to let me in, and she insisted this was worse than me cheating on her. It's been almost a week since then. We've been to therapy again. She saw her doctor. Neither of them seemed too concerned because she's acting normal now and even wants to TTC again. I told her I scheduled a first session with my own therapist because I'm hurt, and I don't want to talk to her, much less try for a baby until I work through this myself. She said I'm overreacting because she made it right, immediately came home and let me in the house, and hasn't brought up how she feels about the shower since that night except for in therapy. Texts 1. Me. Are we busy on the 24th? Something I forgot? I don't think so. Why? Me. Baby shower. They said you RVSP'd, we couldn't make it. Oh yeah, I don't want to go. Not feeling up to baby things. Me. I understand, it stings. I'd like to go. Support my sister for her first baby. I can go on our behalf. It hurt my feelings if you went without me though. She has everything and everyone she needs. I need you. Me. Let's talk when I get home. Texts 2. I've been thinking about it and I don't think it's fair for you to go. I'm still grieving. Even if you're not. Going to this is like twisting the knife. You're twisting the knife. Me. I'm sorry. Dovely. I'm still torn up too. I can't wait to raise kids with you, but we've both always wanted to be an aunt and uncle, and now we get to be. I want to share a little joy while things are tough. You literally choosing another pregnant woman over me. You can't understand how hurtful that is? My sister. Let's table this until I get home, or maybe after therapy tomorrow. Love you. Would it help to start trying again? I feel like not trying isn't. We both were happier when we were no. Texts 3. What kind of man can't stay by his woman's side when her world is crashing down? It's making me sick. You're off celebrating when I'm the lowest I've ever been. This is like emotional cheating almost. You're going to have to make up for this betrayal for a while because I am hurting thanks to you. Me. Dovely, I love you. I know you want our family to grow. I do too. And I understand the heartbreak. It's kind of hurting my heart to be here too, but I'm also having some gladness which we haven't gotten to have for bit. This is partly for me but also for my sister and our future nephew. Remember, we want to be his favorite aunt and uncle. We need to talk about this more in therapy. Can't keep brushing it off. Grief is supposed to change over time, and I don't think it's changing for you after months. Probably won't change until you give me a baby. Me. Okay? Call you on the way home. Get yourself some curry. DD Credit. Texts 4. Me. Ring ring. Headed back. Are you at your mom's? Yes, we're at dinner. Me. Pick up. Now. I need to know why I'm locked out. Head home or I'm kicking in the back door. I already told you you betrayed me. You don't get to just come home willy-nippy like nothing happened. Your bag is already packed. Go stay at hotel for the night or something. Me. What the fuck? I love you, but what the fuck? Come home now and you're going to the damn doctor tomorrow. Comments. Commenter 1. So you guys TTC'd for 4 months, took a break. For 3. And then she locked you out of the house for not skipping a super special life moment with your own sister after you guys had talked about it a bunch? Unless there's more to this story, you are Noor, and I would want to understand from her therapist and doctor why they aren't concerned with such erratic behavior. That isn't to say there can't be some explanation, or that you shouldn't give her time to work through her feelings, but if she's coming out of this with the sense she didn't do anything wrong here, that feels like the wrong takeaway. Support, validation, and respect are two-way streets, and in those text exchanges I really only see one of you trying to understand and support the other one. Reply, appreciate this because no one else seeing anything wrong here makes me feel insane. Her mom called her on it a little bit, but the doctor and therapist said they'd be concerned if she locked me out and kept me locked out. Since she came right home and let me in, it was a momentary lapse of judgment. Commenter 2. Info. So you were just trying to conceive naturally and stopped after only 4 months? I don't get it. Why? It takes most people much longer than 4 months to conceive a child. It's completely normal for couples your age to take as long as a year to conceive if they are having sex every 2 or 3 days at least. If she is that desperate to conceive, why did she stop doing the one thing that will make her conceive? Commenter 3. I was thinking the same thing. Yes, it can be disappointing when you aren't successful conceiving right away, but it is normal that it could take up to a year. Her reaction to you wanting to go to your sister's shower is way over the top, and not remotely the behavior of someone in their right mind. It would be different if you had struggled through years of fertility issues, or she had just had a miscarriage. Then I could understand her being upset and having a hard time celebrating your sister. That said, changing the locks is next level. Vindictive and crazy based on the info you have given. Commenter 4. I agree with this comment. 4 months is not a lot of time for trying to conceive. It took my husband and I about a year and a half to finally get pregnant with our first child. I had to have a tubal flushing procedure, which is a non-invasive procedure to flush out the fallopian tubes. I got pregnant a little over a month later. Sometimes women who took birth control prior to TTC have issues with the fallopian tubes being clogged. The success rate with this procedure is very high. I can truly understand now if you are questioning having kids with her. She seems extremely irrational and a little unhinged over something as simple as supporting your family. Commenter 5. I read the messages before reading the caption, and assumed that she must have just been through something incredibly traumatic like a late-stage miscarriage. To find that the trigger was not conceiving naturally quickly enough blew my mind. Someone's overreacting here, and it's not him. Commenter 6. Dovely? Reply, she loves doves and she's lovely. So I call her Dovely when she's down. Or we're having a hard time. Commenter 7. Yay, she sounds so lovely. Update 1. She does have a diagnosis of panic disorder, hence why she's in therapy and has a psychiatrist. But she hasn't had a panic attack in quite some time. 2. No, we did not show her therapist the texts yet. I joined her therapy appointment for the first 15-20 minutes, and they're only 45-minute sessions, so not much time to cover everything. Her therapist, per my wife, said she was in the wrong, but she didn't think there was anything emergent because she came home and fixed the problem right away. Okay, the update. Knowing my wife, she doesn't always hear how she comes off, so I started by sitting her down and reading our text conversations out loud to her, then let her sit with it for a bit. After about 5 minutes of silence, she started crying and said she was a monster and didn't recognize herself. I asked her why that might be, and she offered some concerns that I think are genuine. 1, she works in an office, and she said 4 of her co-workers are pregnant, 2 have started maternity leave, and for the last couple of weeks she's been covering a lot for both of them, so she's been very stressed. I knew she'd been working longer hours but didn't know how much it was stressing her out. 2. Her parents are extremely pushy about her having kids. They've made comments to us before which I kind of wrote off as normal, excited, first-time grandparents-to-be, but she showed me texts from both of them in their family group chat in the last few months, and they've been sending her quite a few articles about fertility, parenting, etc. One text even said, "Are you actually trying? Or are you just teasing us?" which clearly hurt her. She shared this with her therapist several sessions ago but never mentioned it to me. 3. She said she's afraid she's projecting her parents' frustration with her onto me, and subconsciously felt like I'll leave her if we don't have kids soon, so she might have been lashing out to push me away before I could push her away. And she acknowledged that's wrong of her. We've agreed to take a few more months off of trying, 1 so her work stress can eventually decrease, and 2 so we as a team can set some boundaries with her parents. My wife has agreed she's not going to give them trying updates, and we will just tell them whenever we're ready to announce a pregnancy someday. I asked her if she realized she went psycho, and she said yes, saying she broke, and doesn't even remember making some of the decisions she made. But she's very remorseful, and I believe her. I'm booking with my own therapist, and she is going to continue with hers. Eventually, we may add a couples therapist, but time and money aren't unlimited. She did resume working on the baby blanket she started for our incoming nephew, which she hasn't touched in months. I've kind of left her alone and notice she cries every so often. I'll give her a hug when I notice. She cooked dinner for the first time in a while. We've been so busy, we've been surviving on frozen meals and DoorDash. This update will probably disappoint those who wanted us to divorce immediately, but it is what it is. The dust is still settling, but I feel like some mending is occurring. Commenter 1, I'm glad to hear this update. When I read the first post, it seemed like a situation that could be handled if your wife was willing to accept the fact that she was clearly in the wrong, and you come across as someone who would know when that point has passed. I mentioned in a comment that the stress she's putting on herself probably pushed her reaction, and it makes sense that it was coming from an external source too. It seems like a very silly and short-sighted idea to get pregnant when so many coworkers are, and she's covering part of their work. I can't believe she actually wanted to be pregnant while doing extra work already. It leads me to believe even more that the research going into this process was a little lacking in general, and again, makes sense if it was driven by external pressure from parents. Commenter 2. Yay, the timing really doesn't add up. Taking on extra work because co-workers are pregnant, then deciding to get pregnant yourself, that's just asking for trouble. Sounds like the parents were definitely pushing for this, and she wasn't thinking it through properly. Good thing you recognized when enough was enough. Commenter 3. 2. Her parents need to fuck off. What horrid shitheads. Reply. Yeah, I always say my wife is tiny but mighty, except when it comes to them. I have a feeling that when we sit down with them, I will be the one laying down the law, which I'm prepared to do because that pissed me the hell off. She might be a monster right now, but that's my monster. Damn it. It's not a little joke. They're implying that she's lying to them, which probably made her feel even more like she owed them information, and they're applying pressure that she's not doing something right to get pregnant. Commenter 4. Does she understand that 4 months of trying isn't very long at all? And does this taking a break from trying mean no sex? You guys need to have a healthy sex life for general happiness, but also to make babies. Babies just happen all the time from regular intimacy, and not just from trying. She might be a monster. Right now. But that's my monster, damn it. This is so endearing, lol. I wish you both the best. Reply. We haven't had time for spontaneous sex lately, but it's not something we're avoiding. Just need to break from all of the tracking and baby dancing, lol. Commenter 5. Honestly, she should not even consider having kids yet. Her mental health is the most important. Reply. She seemed genuinely surprised when I said I'll still love her, even if for some reason we never had kids. I think we've both been so passionate about being parents someday that we never explored what not having biological kids would look like. Commenter 6. Okay, I know this seems like progress, but what she did wasn't something small or simple. She changed the fucking locks on your own home. You can't even be sure you'll have forever access to your home anymore because your wife went as far as to change the locks on you. If my partner locked me out of my own home over me doing something we not only agreed on but was completely normal and reasonable, I would not be moving back in until I could trust them again. And this does not read like she's even realized she's broken your trust. You're completely sweeping this major break of trust by excusing her behavior away. And what if she does this to any kids you might end up having? If your wife can do this to you, what makes you sure she won't do it to your child? Imagine if your child does something completely innocent that you all agreed on, only to come home and find themselves locked out because their mom got stressed out at work. Your child, standing outside their home, completely confused why their key no longer works, panicked that something might be wrong, unable to go home, unable to trust the safety and security of having a home to go to anymore. Don't do this to any kids you might have. They will not forget the confusion, anxiety, and panic of being locked out of their own home by their mother. Reply. Fair. But just remember, you know her from one Reddit post. I've known her very, very well for 10 years, married for 2. I've never seen her act like this. Commenter 7. Seems like making a baby quilt would be some kind of torture for her. Reply. I think she feels bad for not going, and wants to get back to being excited for our nephew. Stories number 15. My boyfriend's mom kisses and massages him daily. IF30 don't know if I can handle it. IF30 have been dating my boyfriend M35 for about 2 years. I've met his parents twice, for a week each time, and the second time I started noticing some weird behavior between him and his mom. At first, I thought it was cute that he's close with his family, but then I noticed a few things that felt off. She texts him every night at 10 p.m. to say goodnight. Excessive, but not alarming. After spending 4 days with the family, I asked him if we could go out for a romantic dinner, just the 2 of us. As I grabbed my bag, he kissed his mom before we left, even though we were only gone for 2 hours. He also kissed her goodnight every night before going to bed. One morning at breakfast, he was checking the weather on his phone when she came up behind him, buried her lips in his back, and sat there for 10 seconds. I was inches away, and it felt extremely disturbing, more like something a partner would do, not a mother. She randomly massages his shoulders almost every day while he's sitting at the table on his phone. When I asked him about it, he said she's just being affectionate because his dad is closed off. But to me, the way she expresses it crosses the line. I also noticed she doesn't do this with his sister, and he said it's because she doesn't like being touched. So maybe his sister already established boundaries that I feel are missing here. For some context, his dad is a sweet man who always provided for the family and supported her in being a stay-at-home mom, even after the children grew up. He is very gentle and Labrador type of man, and yet he gets no affection. If anything, he gets nagged and told off for small things, and they also have separate rooms. To be clear, I don't feel jealous or possessive. I just feel disturbed, because it doesn't seem like motherly love and makes me uncomfortable to witness. If his mom was genuinely touchy-feely, she would do it with everyone else. We have future plans together and want to build a life, but I don't know if I can handle being around his family with this dynamic. He visits every 2 months for 3-4 days, usually alone, but in the long term it's not realistic to always avoid them. especially since they always spend Christmas together. The issue is, he seems clueless about his mom's behavior and insists it's just normal. That worries me slightly, but he's always been a people pleaser. Am I overthinking this? Right now, the only option I see is to stop visiting with him, but that doesn't feel sustainable. I would like to be more present and involved with his family, as he expressed. He likes if I visit. I'd really appreciate outside perspectives, because this happens daily when we're there, and I can't stop thinking about it. Comments. Commenter 1. Your boyfriend gets to set the boundaries with his mom. And if this is normal to him no matter what people on Reddit think, then that's fine. It's also okay that it's not fine for you. But you can't change his boundaries. If this makes you that uncomfortable, then you should end this relationship and find someone that feels the same as you. Commenter 2. I didn't grow up in an affectionate family, so physical affection was not something I was used to or experienced, which is why it felt weird to me when I saw it in other families. The issue was with me, not them. In fact, I found it odd when my friends would call their mom just for a chat. My family only calls each other if someone dies or something else bad is happening. It blew my mind that people called their family just for connection or for fun. In saying that, if this is making you uncomfortable, first look inwards and test your own personal experiences or perceptions, then talk to your partner about it. But not in a way where there is blame or fault. But just to understand. There is a reason you are weirded out by this. But you need to communicate to your partner. Now, I hug and kiss my kids whenever I can. Physical affection is so important. And I hope when my kids are in their 30s we still hug and kiss on the cheek, hello and goodbye. And that they call me just for no other reason than to chat. Commenter 3. My mom is also extremely affectionate. I get that every family has a different dynamic, but I don't see anything wrong with this so far. I think this sounds like a personal issue for OP, and not an issue with their dynamic. As long as they aren't like hardcore making out, or creepy cuddling or shit like that. Then I don't see the issue honestly. Hugs, cheek kisses and massages are normal from a mother. A few weeks ago I spent 3 days at my mom's house when I was back in my hometown. I kissed her goodnight every night I was there, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Commenter 4. Okay, not the popular opinion here, but I think this is no big deal. The kiss on his back was a bit much, but everything else seems pretty pedestrian to me. Yes, including the goodbye kisses and shoulder rubs. I couldn't comment on whether his visits are too much, but honestly, I don't think this is a worrying level of affection. Stories number 16. Aita for telling my father I'd rather let a stranger walk me down the aisle, and he'd be lucky if he was even invited to the wedding. As the title says, I, 24F, snapped at a family dinner and told my father, 56M, that I'd rather let a stranger walk me down the aisle than him. For a bit of context, my father always wanted my brother and I to have a traditional wedding. Since I was a child, he always told me how much he looked forward to eventually walking me down the aisle, and I too shared his excitement. However, that changed the day I found out he had cheated on my mother. The affair was a one-time thing. However, he kept in contact with the women for over a year before my mother caught him. This completely changed my view of him, and although my mother decided to forgive him, his behavior after the fact only made me detest him more. He got more aggressive, would often turn to alcohol, and basically became a stranger. He only got worse when I entered my teens, and now that I am in my 20s, and have put more thought into my future marriage, I know for a fact I do not want him walking me down the aisle, even though I know how much this will hurt him. Instead, both my brother and I agreed that he'd be the one walking me down the aisle, as he was the father figure while I was growing up. Now, here is where the problem began. I no longer speak much to my father, however. Every year or so my mother hosts a family dinner. Since they are still together, my father is always at these events. Unfortunately, he often uses them to get drunk and complain about how upsetting it is that we no longer speak to him. The only reason I keep coming to these dinners is because I love my mother and do not want to make her feel like I am abandoning her. I have tried to organize outings with just my mother. However, my father always strong-arms his way into these meetings, and in my opinion, it isn't worth the fight. However, yesterday, I just snapped. During the dinner, the topic of marriage was brought up. My brother recently proposed to his fiancée and was talking with my mother about some of their wedding plans. My father, who was already drunk, piped up about how much he was looking forward to walking me down the aisle when I eventually got married. I immediately apologized and told him that I had already decided my brother was actually going to be the one to walk me down the aisle. I added that, instead of me, he could walk my mother down the aisle before I entered, so that he could still have his moment. After a long pause from him, my father started yelling. He told me I was an ungrateful brat, how he couldn't believe that this is how I repaid him after all he had done for me growing up. I remained silent while he went off on me, but after he told me I should be lucky he even still wanted to walk me down the aisle after how I treated him, I just snapped. I told him that I would rather a stranger walk me down the aisle than him, and he'd be lucky if he was even invited to the wedding. I know my wording was harsh, but I was just sick of him berating me. Once I had finished yelling, my father broke down and started sobbing. He kept on repeating that I was such a bad person for taking this from him, and how could I do this to him after everything? I couldn't handle staying there, so I left the dinner shortly after. Today, I was bombarded with texts from my mother about how I shouldn't have said those things, that I know how my father is and what alcohol does to him, and that I should have just remained quiet. My brother is on my side, but I know my mother is right. I have experienced my father under the influence and know that the best way to handle it is to stay silent. Still, when he said those things about me, I just couldn't stop myself. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for telling my father I'd rather let a stranger walk me down the aisle and he'd be lucky if he was even invited to the wedding? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. Your father is a selfish drunk, and it doesn't seem like he ever really suffered any consequences from his affair or any of his actions afterwards. Your mom defends him, which is classic codependency behavior. It also seems like your dad became abusive as time went on. I think that if your dad is anywhere near your wedding, a wedding dinner, or a wedding reception, he is going to be trouble, and it is going to mar your memories of the best event of your life. Reply. I appreciate your verdict. I know it seems obvious that I should cut contact, but I just want to keep the peace in my family, and really don't want to lose my mother after all that she has done for me, even if she defends my father. My father struggled with a nicotine addiction while we were children, and he fixed it by turning to alcohol. He did enter rehab for a while, and that is where he met his affair partner. When he was caught, he relapsed. We were told to just move past the whole affair, and if we brought it up, my father would either start sobbing or get aggressive. My mother is entirely financially dependent on my father, and although she has always denied it, I sometimes think that is the only reason she stayed. Regarding the abuse, my father never really physically harmed my brother or I. He would, when he was already really drunk, slap us, but my mother always managed to stop him, so it never got truly bad. Although, and I don't know if this counts as verbal or any other form of abuse, he would often drive dangerously when we angered him in a car, complain about our attitudes or yell at us, mainly when drunk, and kicked my brother out at 16 and me when I just turned 17. These are just a few things I can recall off the top of my head, but I'm sure my brother has other stories from the time we were living with him. Commenter 2. NTA. Your father is an abusive drunk, and your mother is both, enabling him and allowing him to abuse her children. I understand you love your mother, but she's clearly choosing to support his verbal and emotional abuse of you for whatever reason. I can't tell you what you should do, only that if it was me, I would tell them both the above, word for word, and then block them until they decided to grow up. Reply. Sorry about the deleted comment. I believe Reddit glitched, and it looked as though I had replied twice, lol.as, to what I had said in the original comment. I know my mother is painted in a poor light in this interaction, but when we were teens, she would protect us whenever he got physical, and would defend us when he entered our rooms at midnight just to scream. She has always been my support system alongside my brother, and I don't know what I would do without her in my life. I don't know what she has to put up with now that we are out of the house. A lot of comments are saying I need to cut her out as well, but then I don't know how I'll be able to make sure she is safe and taken care of. Commenter 3. I grew up with an alcoholic father, and that is no excuse for his behavior or lashing out. He screwed up so badly over so many years. Your father needs to get his act together, and he is not owed anything by you or your brother. Reply, my brother and I tried to convince him, when he was sober, to consider rehab. My mother doesn't want him to go because that is where he met his affair partner, and he doesn't want to go either, as he claims it didn't help him the first time. I often find myself considering just cutting him out of my life, but then I have no way of knowing if my mother is safe. I don't trust my father with her. Commenter 4. It is like talking to a bottle to reason you a drunk. But he had it coming. Maybe repeat those words to him while he's sober, and they'll hit home better. He probably forgot them already. Reply. It's hard to find a time when he is sober, as I often only see him during these dinners, and he is either already drunk or doesn't plan on socializing until he is. OP tries to defend her mother's actions for staying with her father. Reply, I understand. Maybe I'm overly justifying my mother's actions, but I still don't see her as an enabler. I may be naive, but I still think she was just as scared to leave my father, as she had no family in our country, and was dependent on him financially. Update. Aita for telling my father I'd rather let a stranger walk me down the aisle, and he'd be lucky if he was even invited to the wedding. It has been about 2 days since I told my alcoholic father he wouldn't be the one walking me down the aisle, and since then, things have only gotten worse for me and my brother. Reading all of the comments helped me realize my mother, although she shielded us from most of the abuse, was still an enabler and showed no signs of ever stopping my father's behavior. However, she is still my mother, and I didn't want to immediately jump to no contact. I talked it over with my brother, and we decided it would be best to have a final conversation with my mother, alone. I finally answered her texts, basically telling her we needed to talk without my father present, and that if he did show up, I'd leave, and have to consider going no contact. She agreed to the arrangement, and we decided to meet at a nearby cafe for lunch, at my request. I arrived first and my mother came about 15 minutes later with, you likely guessed it, my father in tow. Maybe I was still naive to think she would follow through on our agreement, but I had truly trusted her to come alone. I just got up and left the cafe. Although it was hard, I followed through on my threat and blocked her on everything. I thought that would be the end of it. However, this morning she showed up at my doorstep, this time without my father. She looked so disheveled and just so lost. I couldn't close the door on her, so I invited her in. We had a long talk. I told her about how much hurt her behavior has caused my brother and I, how my father would still be cut out of our lives until he was at least a year sober, and that she needed to finally start encouraging him to better himself, or leave him, otherwise we'd also be going no contact with her. I told her that if she did ultimately decide to divorce him, both me and my brother would be there to financially and emotionally support her. We ended up talking for about 2 hours, the majority of which was spent mostly crying. During the talk, my mother revealed the real reason she wouldn't leave my father. She was the one who had an affair first. It was with a co-worker at her old waitressing job. Instead of dumping her, my father told her they could stay together if she would follow his rules. Basically, he was allowed to have at least one hall pass. She couldn't talk to anyone of the opposite gender, and she had to quit her job and give him full access to her finances. If she broke any one of his rules or tried to leave, he'd tell her family, who were extremely against cheating, what my mother had done, and do everything in his power to ruin her life. After she finished, I tried again to convince her just to leave him, telling her she'd still have my brother and I. The revelation that my mother also cheated has hurt me deeply, but at the moment I still just want her to leave my father. However, despite my best efforts, my mother apologized for everything she had done to us, but still said she was going to stay with my father. I have now lost both of my parents and have been a sobbing wreck all day. It's not what I wanted from this situation, but at least I still have my brother. Hopefully I will eventually be able to move on, but for now, I think I just want to rest. Sorry if there are any grammar mistakes. I just need to vent out what has been going on. Thank you for all of your support, and I'll update you all if anything changes. Thanks. Edit. Since I've gotten a lot of comments about the fact it seems I am perfectly fine with my mother's affair, I would quickly like to clear some things up. I am by no means siding with my mother or defending her for her affair. I just wanted her out of the toxic marriage. which is toxic on both sides, but she is an adult, and ultimately she chose to stay in it. All I will do now is try to ensure I do not become like them, and hope that they both get the help they need. I still do not like my father, as he was abusive to us. However, I am now also aware that my mother isn't much better. I feel sympathy for both of them due to their situations, but don't agree with either of their actions. While I was writing out this post, I had no idea how much her affair actually affected my family's life and my father's later behavior. Reading the comments helped me realize the extent of how horrible her actions were, and am by no means defending or supporting that. I will need a moment to adjust to this information, as now I have a new perspective on the years I spent believing my father was the villain while my mother was the hero, so please bear with me while I take it in. Also, I have told my brother everything, and he too is looking into therapy to help him move forward. Anyways, I hope this clarifies some things, and I'll answer any questions in the comments. Edit 2. Sorry if it wasn't clear. I have gone full NC with both of my parents. Relevant comments, commenter 1. I'm glad you were able to see that your mother was enabling. Finally, and that you held your boundaries but also got a chance to talk to your mom. Gently though, you can't control your mom. To give her an ultimatum like that is ultimately the same thing as what your father has done to her. I don't condone what either has done, and maybe no contact is the right thing to do still, but I still stand by my suggestion to get yourself to therapy, ideally before getting married, as these behaviors trickle down, whether you want them to or not. Reply. Thank you for your comment. I have a therapy session booked later this week. I have no intention of becoming like my father, and will do whatever I can to ensure I do not end up repeating his behavior. I let me emotions get the better of me in the way I handled things with my mother, which is no excuse, but hopefully I'll be able to stop this behavior from continuing to show up in my life. OP clarifies details on her mother's affair and who cheated first. Reply. I believe that my mother's affair came out during a visit while my father was in rehab. When he asked for a hall pass, he already knew who he wanted to have a ONS with. My mother agreed to only a ONS, as that is what she did, and that is why when it was revealed he kept in contact with his affair partner. I'm not sure if they ever slept together again. She got upset. My father had already started to drink alcohol every couple of nights after he got out of rehab, likely due to my mother's affair, but I believe the way we treated him once we found out made him turn solely to alcohol for comfort. I do not support my mother in her decision to have an affair, and my view on her has changed drastically. However, whether she cheated or not, she is still in a dangerous situation with my father, and making sure she is safe should take priority over my feelings. I also still remember all of the good years I spent with my mother after the cheating incident, and even though it's likely only that way because she was never outed, I can't help but associate her with those memories, whereas my father is associated with his alcoholism, as that is all I can remember of him. Hopefully that answers the question, but if it doesn't, please let me know, and I'll try to answer as best I can. Commenter 2. So your mother cheated on your father, and then stayed silent as she watched his relationship with you fall apart due to his supposed betrayal of her, his subsequent descent into alcoholism and destructive behavior, and how much this hurt him. You and your brother? I really hope you've told your brother the full story, both because he deserves to know, and for your relationship with him. Commenter 3. Sad all the way around. The adults royally screwed you over, OP. Dad's affair was discovered when you were a child and he went off the rails afterwards. Not having the facts of your mother's affair gave you a skewed perception, but doesn't excuse their choices or behavior. He doesn't get to walk you down the aisle not because he cheated. You're not cutting your mother off because she cheated. You're cutting them off because they made choices about their relationship that negatively impacted your childhood and makes it impossible to be around them. I wish you strength and healing. Commenter 4. This is an example that you should never try and make it work after infidelity. I don't know how your dad was before your mom cheated, but it certainly didn't make him better. Stories number 17. My F25 husband, M25, expects me to be a tradwife when I have a full-time job. My F25 husband, M25, and I both work full-time. My job is less taxing than his, but he keeps expecting me to clean the house and watch the kids when we do have kids on top of my job. He comes home and only plays games while I cook, clean, grocery shop, laundry, etc. I make sure the bills are always paid too. Every time I complain that he doesn't help enough, he says it's my role as a woman. He takes care of outside stuff like mowing the lawn and snow plowing and throwing the trash out. He only mowed like 4 times this summer and plowed like 4 times last winter, whereas I have to do things every day or weekly. He says because I have more free time at work, I can use up all my free time to keep the house clean instead of volunteering, which I enjoy volunteering at different organizations. My job requires me to be in office, and he scoffs that half the time I'm not even in the office. He doesn't do anything but comes home and games. I'm sick and tired of this. He always uses the gender role on me, and I want to be able to have a life outside of home too. I told him I'm scared to have kids because he won't help me, and he said that he still expects the house to be clean because it's my job. There was no reassurance at all from him. I've brought up my worry of having kids with him multiple times because he'll keep expecting the house to even be clean on top of taking care of the future kids, on top of my work, and on top of ministry work I do. He said, well, it's your job as a woman. Stop doing too much ministry work then. It's like he minimizes the things I do on the daily and weekly. He said each room takes like 15 minutes for you to clean, but when I mow the lawn it takes me 2 hours and includes much more labor. You have so much free time, stop going to do ministry work instead of cleaning the house. That's why you always complain. But I do clean the house and do chores on top of cooking every day on top of my job. I feel defeated. Every time I clean, he makes comments like the house is dirty or stuff, and always says I don't do enough for the house. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm so sorry, but you married the wrong person. Commenter. 2. If you have kids, this dynamic will get 100 times worse. I think you should really reevaluate the viability of this relationship before it gets more complex and interwoven. I work full-time. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. When I am at work, she runs the house, family and kid activities. When I am not, at work we split responsibilities. 50/50. Commenter 3. Dump him. Why would you want to be with someone who thinks like that? That's not a partner. Do not let him get you pregnant. Commenter 4. Respectfully, your husband is telling you he doesn't want a partner, he wants a maid. Those expectations are not going to get better without adding kids into the mix, and will almost definitely get considerably worse if you do add kids into the mix. Take that information, reflect on it, and then decide what it means for you and the relationship. ETA. I peeped your post history out of curiosity, and girl, get divorced. I tried real hard not to default immediately to break up, because that is the Reddit default for every situation and I hate it, but, girl, this man also just had an emotional affair 2 months ago. I also gathered from your post history that you are Catholic, so I understand that divorce is taboo, but you have to know you deserve more than this. Get divorced. Stories. Number 18. My dad, now mom, is transgender, and it's absolutely ruining my life. I'm 18 years old, and I have a twin sister. Our dad came out a few years ago, and now he wants to be our mom, my parents. Separated, understandably, when he decided to come out, and we both stay with him because he kept our family home in the divorce. I understand he wants to live his truth, but it is so embarrassing. I want nothing to do with him. I feel so angry, especially because he made this decision to tear our family apart 4 years ago. And people used to bully the shit out of me and my sister. Whenever my dad, who everyone knew as a guy, all of a sudden started to come to my school meetings and events dressed as a woman, it pisses me off, and I really don't want to deal with him, but he constantly keeps trying to make contact, and I just can't stand it. I had to at a certain point just tell my dad to stay home because it was just so embarrassing. And I have so much resentment. I don't want to call my dad mom, or she, or see my dad in dresses, makeup, and with long girly hair. And I especially don't want any of my friends to see that, especially the ones who knew my dad pre-transition. I've never dealt with anything more mortifying. I just feel like screaming into the void because why is this my life? Sometimes I feel bad because I know my dad is really trying. He spoils me and my sister a lot more, but whenever I look at him, I just can't help the resentment. It's just so wrong. I've never cared if anyone else transitioned, but why my dad? It's not fair. Edit. I fixed a spelling mistake because I didn't realize I put mine and my sister's ages twice. I just like to clarify that I am not in any way transphobic. If anyone but my parent would have transitioned, I wouldn't have said a word. But my dad's choice to transition ruined my home life stability and my social life as well. Thank you to everyone who's been kind, though I really am just hurt. Comments. Commenter 1. My dad came out as gay when I was your age. I'm 32 now. It was so damn hard at first. I was raised to accept gay people and that didn't change. I wasn't necessarily mad he was gay, I was mad he tore our family apart. Suddenly my family was a statistic. I was a freshman in high school, and suddenly I had to tell my close friends my dad is gay. And that was hard. I was so embarrassed to admit it. I remember being called to my guidance counselor's office in the middle of class. My parents told him about the divorce and my dad's sexuality. I was so mad they went behind my back. I went back to class, and the group I was sitting with asked why I got called down there. I remember laughing off the confession because I figured, if I laughed it off it wouldn't be a big deal. Fortunately it wasn't. I didn't do well in school, barely graduated honestly because my world got flipped upside down. But I hung out with friends, went to concerts, attempted to do my schoolwork, got in petty fights with friends, went to therapy. I graduated, moved out, met new people. Life continued, and my dad being gay is the least of my problems. It's just a fact now. I love my dad, and I'm glad we have a close bond now. But damn was it hard. We had to work at it, and it was not easy. Obviously my dad being gay wasn't as obvious as him being trans. I don't want to pretend it's the same, but the sudden divorce, the coming out, the friends, the age, it's all so similar. I don't have advice for you on how to handle your dad. I do think therapy could help, but it will mostly be time and growing up. I always thought the whole, "it will get better," to be so cliché, but I'm on the other side of it now, and it did. Even if you grow apart from your dad, it will get better. If you grow apart and then reunite, it will get better. No matter the outcome, it will get better. It fucking sucks right now. You are valid for being mad and everything else you are feeling. My only tiny bit of advice would be to don't let your studies fall to the wayside. So much was going on at home that my parents didn't care about my grades until it was nearly too late. And even then, they were just upset with me. It didn't help that my older sisters had better grades. I digress. It will be hard not to let this affect your schooling, but don't let yourself stop caring. Reply. In a way, I wish he would have just done it when me and my sister were older. If we were in college, I wouldn't have cared a far. I just have spent the last 4 years being an absolute laughingstock for something I didn't even do. It hurts a lot. Thank you, though. Reply commenter 1. I'm giving you the biggest internet hug right now. Kids are so cruel. I can only imagine what you have gone through. I truly hope things get better for you. If you need anything, you can DM me. Like I said in my original comment, our situation isn't completely the same. Mine was more invisible, if you will. But I know what it can be like. The pain, the shock, the family dynamic changing. It's all so much. You seem to have a good head on your shoulders, though. Gotta keep it day by day. I wish you and your sister the best, and you can each heal. Commenter 2. Some of these replies are so insensitive. OP, your feelings are valid. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, but so are your parents. Rights to do whatever they want with their bodies. I'm sorry you're getting bullied. Children are cruel. The people telling you to move out are just stupid and unrealistic. Try and find common ground, and if you truly can't, then just do what feels right for you. You're young. I don't know why everyone here is expecting you to know how to perfectly regulate your emotions at 18. Commenter 4. I had a coworker who at 56 decided to transition. He couldn't understand why his children and wife were not okay with it. I pointed out to him, that it took him 56 years to come to terms with his truth. How reasonable is it to expect everyone he had known all of those years to just suddenly, on a dime, accept the change? It never occurred to him/her that they may need time as well. Op. Perhaps you need to have a similar conversation with your father. It might be that he has been so caught up in what he is going through that he hasn't taken the time to consider others' perspectives. You should call him out on that. Not in a mean way, but in a matter-of-fact type way. Stories number 19. Aita for telling people the real reason why I skipped my friend's wedding. I 35F am still friends with some of the people I went to college with. One of them, Debbie fake name, 36F, got married this past January after being engaged for 2 years. Early in the planning process, Debbie had asked my 6-year-old daughter, who was 5 at the time, to be the flower girl. We agreed, and she had the dress sent to us right away. We barely spoke about the subject for a while. Then the wedding was delayed by almost a year. The original date was in March 24. I'm still not sure why. I've heard 3 or 4 different reasons. By the time the actual wedding date came around, the flower girl dress did not fit my daughter anymore. We didn't find out until roughly 10 days before the wedding, admittedly my fault. And I texted Debbie right away to ask what I should do about it. Her first reply was, "Figure it out." I tried to ask her where she'd bought the dress, where I could get a similar one, or whether it would be okay for my daughter to wear a different dress. I basically gave her a list of ways I could fix this, and asked her what she preferred. Debbie responded with, "I don't have time for this. Stop making your whale daughter my problem." Obviously, I decided against attending the wedding after that. As far as I'm concerned, we're no longer friends. And to be clear, I know that up until this point, I was not the AH. I didn't tell anyone about it at first, but our absence was obvious. My friends missed me, and my daughter was supposed to be the only flower girl. Whenever Debbie was asked about it, she apparently just said we'd had an argument, but it wasn't a big deal. When our mutual friends and acquaintances asked me, I told them the truth, without sugarcoating it or trying to defend Debbie. I even showed my friends the text messages that proved everything. Everyone took my side. About a week ago, Debbie called me. She apologized for what she said about my daughter, but told me I have no idea how stressed she was at the time. She said it wasn't fair for her to lose friends over a mistake she'd made when she was under so much pressure. Again, I don't think I was in the wrong for skipping the wedding, but I'm wondering whether I took it too far by telling our mutuals. Edit. Yes, I know I should have made sure the dress still fit sooner. I already know that was my mistake, and I'm not blaming Debbie for it. That's not what I'm asking about. Relevant comments. NTA. Doesn't matter how stressed and overwhelmed you are, you never talk about a child or adult in that way. That's part of the reason why I believe I might have been the AH. I don't believe she would have talked about my daughter that way if she wasn't extremely stressed out. Obviously not an excuse, but certainly something I have to take into consideration. Stop making your whale daughter my problem. She actually said that? And you're asking if telling the truth somehow makes you an AH? She spoke her truth. Why? Can't you? Now she has no friends and is trying to backtrack. SMH. NTA. But you would be if you accepted her back as a close friend, even after an apology. I won't. I will appreciate any apologies that come my way, but we're no longer friends. More on Debbie's behavior leading up to the wedding. I don't know much about how she was to other people these last few months. She was polite to me until what she said about my daughter. Out of all our mutual friends, 2 of them would definitely stop being friends with anyone who spoke about a child like that. Would the dress have still fit? Had the wedding not been delayed? She sent us the dress in October 23, 5 months before the original wedding date. It was a little big on my daughter at the time, and I believe it would have fit just fine had the wedding not been delayed. Plus, it's possible. I remember her Halloween costume, also a dress, still fit her very well around April, and it was also a little big in October. I can't be certain, but I think it would still fit. ESH. Dress doesn't fit. Then go to seamstress and order alterations. If it can't be saved, buy a different one. She said figure it out. It's not rocket science. And how didn't you expect that kid had grown? But calling child a whale is also AH move. I've said this elsewhere, but I'm not dealing with something like this without being certain how I should do it. What if I'd bought a different one and she didn't like it? I agree I should have had my daughter try on the dress again sooner, but I don't think asking Debbie how I should fix this was a mistake. You made certain that you got revenge by telling everyone what she said. It was okay for you to make a mistake with the dress, but it was not okay for her to make a mistake with a few bad words. Feel better about yourself? Revenge was never the point. I never said what I did was okay. I literally admitted it was both a mistake and entirely my fault. But that's not what I'm asking about here. In response to a series of downvoted comments from a user implying the solutions offered were crap and that she's playing victim. It wasn't crap. I was more than willing to do whatever she asked me to do to fix this. I apologized and gave her solutions. All I wanted was for her to give me a direction. I admitted I should have made sure the dress fit sooner in the post more than once. In the comments also more than once, to my friends and to Debbie herself. And I told my friends everything I wrote. Here, including that part. Plus, I didn't paint myself as the victim. I told them exactly what I wrote here. I didn't gloss over anything. They know about the dress thing. And they still sided with me. Several commenters voted YTA due to the fact OP didn't make sure the dress fit her daughter sooner. Some are openly insulting her, while many are accusing her of harassing the bride, playing victim or lying to her friends. Here are some of her replies to those. I did apologize for the sizing mishap. Having read the comments, I don't yet think I owe her an apology. I didn't come here for validation, but most people seem to be judging me for not checking the dress, not for telling people what happened. From what I've gathered, people have approached Debbie about this, and she has had the opportunity to present her side of what happened to our mutual friends. Either it's the same thing I said literally what happened, or it was simply not enough to get people to agree with her. There is no doubt whether she insulted my daughter, or whether I was asking her for directions. Both those things are factual, and I have provided people with evidence. I have also informed my friends I took too long to check the dress. I have no reason to lie about that. Plus, I wasn't harassing her. I was asking for information only she could provide me. I didn't want to do anything without making sure she was okay with it. As the bride, she should have the final say. I didn't want to proceed in a way she didn't appreciate. I don't see how that could be an asshole move. I quote, am also not playing the victim. I'm very well aware I was wrong for not checking sooner, and I was more than willing to correct that. I have expressed that multiple times, and that's not what I'm asking here. Plus, I don't see figure it out as carte blanche. I see it as figure out a way to solve this. I figured out different ways, and asked the bride, who should have final say in the matter, which she preferred. That's not dumping it on the bride. It was also not the question I asked. Is OP's daughter overweight? I don't think it matters here, but I will say that my daughter is not overweight. The dress doesn't fit, purely because she's growing up. Info. Did she name-call your kid to you in privately or in front of your daughter? She's still 100% the unquestionably, but I'm an internet stranger concerned about your kid's mental health and want to make sure she is okay and didn't hear this cruel fat shaming. In private otherwise, her dentist would be buying a new car. Update, after my post back in March, I didn't hear anything from Debbie for a while. I did speak to my friends a lot, and they told me that she did continue trying to get them on her side for a while. From what I gather, her story always matched mine. I forgot to make sure the dress fit. I apologized and asked how she preferred. I fixed it. She insulted my kid, and as I remember discussing in the comments, whale of a daughter is a better translation. Everyone continued taking my side. Apparently, I wasn't the only one Debbie had problems with before the wedding. My case was just the worst one. There's no doubt that the dress fiasco was my fault. I had a lot going on at the time and several reasons why I forgot to make sure it fit sooner, but no excuse can change the fact that I messed up. But I still don't think giving Debbie options on how I could proceed was the wrong move. I've been a bride before, and I wouldn't want someone else to make a decision about my wedding without giving me the final say. And I can't ignore that her reaction was to insult my daughter. Debbie first texted me in June. She asked me to help her clear the air with everyone, because most of our mutuals hadn't spoken to her since April. I was tired of all this, so I told everyone that Debbie had already apologized to me. I made it very clear that while we're no longer friends, I sincerely don't care whether they remain in contact with her or not. She texted me once again early in July. She told me that a couple of our mutuals were talking to her again, but it wasn't the same as it used to be. She asked me whether I was still mad at her. I told her I'm not, and I wish her the best, but I don't think we can continue this friendship. I said I was sorry for the dress fiasco and I understood that. She was stressed at the time, but I'll never be able to look past what she did. It would have taken her less time to give me directions than it took to call my daughter a whale. I can forgive rudeness with time, but not insults, especially towards my children. We haven't spoken since. I haven't blocked her, but I have no intention of reaching out again, and I don't think she does either. Some of our mutuals are speaking to her again. Both my best friends from that group want nothing to do with her. I sincerely don't care what anyone does. I won't pretend this never happened, but I've moved on. Like I said, I'm not mad anymore. My daughter will be a flower girl at my cousin's wedding in December, and my family is doing very well. Life has been crazy for a while, but things are finally getting calmer. I won't post here again. Thank you for your time. Relevant comments. What were the reasons floating around for the year-long delay on the wedding? I heard she had problems with her in-laws at some point, but I also heard it had something to do with the venue. Early on, she also claimed that both she and her now husband were busy at work. I vaguely remember hearing at least 2 more reasons, but I don't remember them well and can't confirm anything. Honestly love how adult you were over it all versus scorched earth. Can definitely forgive, never have to forget, or be friends after being wronged. Scorched earth tends to be more exhausting than it's worth, honestly, and I was already under a lot of stress at the time. I probably wouldn't even have told anyone. What happened if I hadn't been questioned about it? Honestly, I'm still blown away by the fact that you, a mother with a child that can outgrow their clothes in a few months, didn't think to check if the clothing still fit after a year. Like you thought the dress would magically stay the size that your daughter was for more than a year, and didn't even think about checking it until a few days before the wedding. I just find it hard to believe that a part of this wasn't subconsciously purposeful. Like you weren't really up for the occasion and dreading having to go through all the work of attending a wedding with a child that was in the wedding. Which I get 100%. I'm what you would consider an old spinster, and though I've never had my own children, I have 17 nieces and nephews, and even I, who has never raised a child, knows that up until they're like 14, I have no expectation that something I bought for them to wear would still fit 4 months later, let alone a whole year. Me, a person who has changed one diaper in my entire life, understands this. So I find it hard to believe that an actual mother did not think about this for such a big event. Inconveniently, forgot to think about it until like a few days before the wedding. Again, not excusing the friend's behavior, I just think part of you self-sabotaged this a little bit, and you're kind of not owning up to that. Downvoted. I'm sorry, but how am I not owning up to that? I have acknowledged multiple times on my original post, in this update, and in comments, not to mention to my friends that I messed up. She delayed her wedding by almost a year. Like I said in this post, I had a lot going on at the time. To name a few things that happened in the time it took for the wedding day to arrive. My father had a heart attack, and my husband had issues at work. I also have 3 children and a job. I did not mention any of that because, like I said, these are still excuses, and none of them change the fact that I should have checked the dress. All of that being said, it was still an honest mistake. I didn't think the dress would magically stay the size that my daughter was for more than a year. I just forgot to check, which I know was my fault. And I did want to go to the wedding, even if I wasn't thinking about it all the time. Top comment. Good update. Glad your daughter still gets to be a flower girl for someone. Hopefully your ex-friend has done some serious reflecting on her behavior. All it takes is one thing said in a moment to ruin relationships forever. Stories. Number 20. Is my neighbor taking the piss with my outdoor socket? Alright, buckle up because I swear I've fallen into some alternate universe where common sense doesn't exist. So I 36M live in a semi-detached in the US suburbs, decent little neighborhood. Not posh, not rough, just normal. We've been here a couple of years and generally I get on with everyone. Wave when taking the bins out, have a chat about football or the weather. Nothing dramatic. Until recently. Behind my house I've got an outdoor electrical socket. Handy little thing. I use it to plug in the lawnmower, charge my tools, power some lights if we're doing a barbecue. Basic homeowner stuff. Never thought twice about it. Last week, I come home from work, and Notice this bright orange extension cord snaking across my garden. It's plugged into my socket, runs through the fence, and disappears into my neighbor's garage. At first I think, maybe I left something plugged in? But nope, it's clearly going into his place. I unplug it, shake my head, and assume maybe he thought it was a communal socket or something. Weird, but I don't want to cause drama. Fast-forward 2 days later. I walk around the back, and there it is again. Same cord, same setup, draining my power into his garage. This time I knock. He answers, and I ask him what's up. He laughs and goes, "Oh mate, it's just pennies. Don't be tight. The estate covers the outdoor electrics anyway." Now I know for a fact that's nonsense because I pay the electricity bill. It's my meter, no one else's. I tell him, politely but firmly, that I'd prefer he didn't plug into my supply without asking. He chuckles again like I'm being ridiculous and says, all right. Guess what? Next day I come back and, yep, you guessed it. Orange cord. My socket. His garage. At this point I'm annoyed. I buy a lockable cover for the socket. Not expensive, just one of those clear ones with a padlock. Problem solved, right? Wrong. This morning I find a note through my letterbox. Handwritten. It says, "Since you've blocked the community socket," his words, not mine, "I'll need to charge my e-bike inside your house when it rains. Please leave your back gate unlocked this Saturday so I can run the cable in." The absolute audacity. He's not even asking. He's telling me, like it's his God-given right to freeload off my power. To make things even more ridiculous, apparently he's now telling some of the other neighbors that I'm tight-fisted and anti-community because I won't let him use our socket. I even tried to be reasonable. I told him I'd split the cost of having an electrician fit a socket on his wall, so he'd have his own. He flat out refused, said he doesn't see the point when there's already one right next door. Now I'm stuck between ignoring his antics or calling the non-emergency police line 101 here in the UK. But I know in the US it'd be similar. On one hand, I don't want to escalate things into a full-on neighbor war. On the other, this guy has shown he doesn't respect boundaries, doesn't care, he's literally stealing from me, and is trying to make me out to be the bad guy for saying no. Like, what's next? He shows up with his laundry basket and asks to use my washer because it's just pennies? So yeah. Am I overreacting by locking the socket, or is my neighbor just a cheeky sod who needs to be told, preferably by someone in uniform, that this is theft and he needs to knock it off? Because honestly, I can't tell if I'm losing my mind here or if this is as insane as it feels. Comments. Commenter 1. The pure entitlement to demand to use your electricity by you leaving the back gate open so he can freely enter your house without supervision. Life is expensive for everyone. Why does he think he can use yours instead of his own? Also, if it's attached to a house, it's the property of the owner of the house. Community charging stations are almost always a pole nearby or in a parking lot. If he insists on community electricity, he should put in a request to install one of those charging stations to the city hall you live in, the jurisdiction of you, quote, not overreacting by locking it. Commenter. 2. Your neighbor is a total wanker. Commenter. 3. Do you use the socket often? Can you find the outlet on the breaker box? Is there anything else critical on the line with that outlet? Remove the lockbox and kill the breaker when you don't need it. You can now watch his face when his bike doesn't charge. Take a video showing the line going to his garage, and you've proven to him that the outlet is yours. You can then let him know that you reported him to the power company for stealing power. Commenter. 4. My mother lived in an elder community, all ground floor with about a maybe 4x8 front yard and an outdoor plug. I'd come over to find an extension cord plugged into her house outlet stretching from the new next-door neighbor. I confirmed with management that it was her yard and that no one but my mother should be using that outlet. I unplugged it the first time, spoke to the neighbor the second, and after unplugging it the third time cut it into very small pieces, which I left in a neat pile on his front porch. Stories number 21. I was going to tell him it was me who did it, but now I don't think I can. My BF had a bad day at work. He got in trouble over something very minor, and his boss blew it way out of proportion and strong-armed him. His boss was mean and insulting and critical of him over a simple and harmless mistake. My BF took the grunt of it, continued working, but called me later, and he was obviously upset. He was discouraged and embarrassed. He talked about how he doesn't want the promotion they are training for anymore and work for these horrible people that can treat and say things like that, him, after all the shit he had accomplished for the success of that company. He's truly worked his hands to the bone. Other locations have 2, 3 people doing the job that my BF does all by himself at his location, and yet his location made the most profit last year. It made me sad hearing him like this because he loves his trade and his work, but they tore him down. That day, fellow crazy girls will relate. But I have multiple aliases that aren't just created yesterday, YK? I've had them and been building them for years. So I used one of my aliases to make a 5-star review on his company Google's page. In my review, I said how this isn't my normal location. I go to it was my first time here, but the work was so impressive that I will be back. I said how I think. I just found my go-to guy for this stuff. He is talented and skilled and reliable technician. And then said from what I understand, there is only one guy in the workshop. I think his name is my BF name. So the turnaround time also really impressed me and how great of a job my thing looks after he worked on it. And he even cleaned it too, and how he has great attention to detail and quality work and excellent customer service. And I would highly recommend going there. Just to make sure it didn't sound like me, I wrote it in French. Because my French isn't perfect French. It's not my first language, but I do know it well enough to communicate my point, but I have to word it differently with my understanding of the French language. I figured when they saw his name in the review, they could translate it on their phone. BTW, I'm in Canada. So French is our second official language, so it's not nobody else will understand it or be able to translate it. Anyways, I was going to tell my BF I did that because my original intent was to his bosses to see how valuable worker he is. But then my BF texted me hours later with a screenshot of the translated review and said, "This is a review I just got, look babe later on in the night." He was almost in tears saying how good it feels to be appreciated and to be recognized like that. It gives him hope and perseverance. And then I realized that it means more to him than to his bosses. So IDK, maybe in 30 years down the line I will tell him eventually. But for now, I don't think I can. Stories, number 22. You won't remember. Over 90%. You read in your lifetime, but you still read anyway. My uncle, who has not 1 but 2 PhDs, reads 1 book a week. Some of my fondest memories with him were our trips bashing about London, going to every used bookstore. He reads everything, from politics to history to cooking, to books on how to write. It always amazed me as a boy, though I didn't understand why he read so much. He reads more than anyone else I ever met before or since. So I asked once in my teenage years why he kept on reading so much well into his 50s and 60s. Here's what he told me. "Lad, I don't remember 90% of the material I've read. I'm not reading Tomomori's certain facts or to have a bank of useful information to pull from later. I read because it's edifying. It changes the way I think, even if just for a moment. And what the brain forgets, the body remembers. I'm a different person now than I would have been had I not read so much, even if the majority of the content is wiped clean from my memory. Don't read to learn for the future. Read to learn right now. It will change you and your perspective, without you ever noticing. That's why I read and will continue to read." You ever have a moment that's life-changing, even if you don't realize it at the time? That was one of those fundamental core moments for me. Even now, 15 years later, I still aim to read a book a week, though admittedly it takes me a bit longer than my uncle. And after reading hundreds of books, articles, and essays in my life, I can say that he was right. I don't remember hardly any of what I read, but that's okay. Reading has changed me in ways I couldn't imagine. It's widened my interests, my perspective, my vocabulary. And I know without a doubt I would not be who I am today had I not read so much. Don't read to learn for the future. Read to learn now. Your mind will forget most of what you learn, but the core foundation of who you are will remember. Stories, number 23. Aita, for telling my dad he doesn't get to cry about how hard things were when he left me to raise my siblings. So, here's the situation. My dad left years ago, and since then I've basically been the one holding things together for my younger siblings. I've been the one cooking, cleaning, helping with school stuff, and making sure they're okay emotionally. My mom worked a lot, so most of the day-to-day fell on me. It wasn't easy, but I didn't really have a choice. Someone had to step up. Recently, my dad decided to come back around. Out of nowhere, he started crying about how hard life has been for him. He said he feels like he missed out, how he regrets things, and how much he suffered not being with us. I just snapped. I told him he doesn't get to cry about missing out when I was the one who actually carried all the weight he left behind. I said it felt insulting for him to act like he was the biggest victim when I had to grow up way too fast because of his choices. He got really quiet and later told my mom I was being disrespectful and cruel. Now I'm wondering if I went too far. Aita for telling him he doesn't get to cry about what he lost when he was the one who left me to carry the responsibility. Stories, number 24. Seriously debating selling the house we love because of nice neighbor. My wife and I bought our first house, in 2017. We got a great price before housing prices shot up, and a good interest rate. We pretty much decided a few years ago that, unless the prices drop drastically and interest rates plummet again, we wouldn't ever sell, as we are in a great position. Then our neighbor kept happening. Our neighbor is much older than us, in his late 60s, and we are both in our mid-30s. He is a super nice guy, but one of those who feels the need to be involved in everything going on with us. He has been in his house for about 35 years now. No kids. He lost his wife to cancer about 5 years ago, and retired this year. From the day we moved in, he felt the need to insert himself in everything we are doing. The day we closed on our house, we immediately left the title company and went to our new place. We are there for 5 minutes before he comes over and starts telling us about all the issues the old owner had in the house, all the stuff they did to the house, etc. Again, we had owned the house for less than an hour at this point, and were trying to celebrate and be happy. And it only gets worse. We aren't partiers at all, but maybe 6-10 times a year. We have some friends over, I smoke some food, we hang out in our backyard, have a fire, and just hang out. We are not loud, no music or anything. He, on every occasion, just shows up in our backyard asking what we are up to. We try not to be rude, and try and tell him we are just catching up with friends. He eventually leaves, but it's annoying that he constantly stops over when he knows we have company. If he sees us doing yard work or me working in the garage, he comes over and starts chatting. My wife and I were putting our gazebo together, and he came over and just started chatting about his first gazebo, the one he has now, one he wants to get, etc. I was doing the brakes on my car, and he came over and started asking, as I am changing out my brakes, if I know how to do brakes. He then proceeds to volunteer me to do brakes on his mom's car the next weekend. My wife and I were leaving in 8 days for Mexico, and once we got back from our 7-day vacation, I was home for 36 hours before going to Germany for a month for work. Told him I wouldn't have time, and maybe when I got back I could help him. He then proceeds, the day before leaving for Mexico, to come over with his mom's car and new brakes and rotors, asking if we could do them real quick. I told him no. I am packing and going to be gone for like 5 weeks straight, and I just want to relax in my own house. He asked to borrow my cordless leaf blower to clean out his gutters one day. I said sure, gave it to him, and went back inside. To get back to work, I work from home when not traveling. I am sitting there on a conference call when I hear loud knocking on my roof. I proceed to go outside, and he is on my fucking roof blowing out my gutters. I ask him what he is doing and, he says, cleaning my gutters. I tell him not to, and I can take care of it when it's time. He was cleaning out his garage and asked if I wanted an edger. Told him no, I am okay. The next day, he proceeds to show up at my back door with 3 edgers, asking what one I want. I tell him again I don't want one, and he just says he'll leave one and leaves it. A month later, our Ring cameras keep going off, as he is fucking edging our entire front lawn. We are both gone, and by the time we get home, he is already done. Tell him he didn't need to do that. He says he was doing anyway, so just did ours too. We have 2 German shepherds, and they love being outside. We like sitting outside while they run around and play. If he hears us outside at all, he will start shouting over the fence to chat with us. My wife likes to sit and drink her morning coffee outside in her PJs. She is fully clothed but still in her PJs, and not really wanting to interact with people after all, she is in our yard. He routinely will come over and ask to borrow a tool, ask for milk, ask me to print something, fix his phone, etc. The latest straw was Friday. I was on PTO and trying to sleep in. He texted at 5:45 a.m. asking if he can park one of his cars in my driveway. We have a double driveway, and you can park one car in it on the side, while still having full access to my yard and garage. I didn't see his text, I was sleeping, and woke up a few hours later to his car parked in my driveway. And there are dozens of other things I haven't even mentioned. We have tried repeatedly to set boundaries. Ask him not to do things on our house. Nothing he is doing is mean or bad. At worst it is rude, but most of it is him trying to be nice and helpful. But it's just too much. We just want to live in peace, be able to walk around our house, and not worry that he is just going to be sitting at our back door for some reason. We don't want to burn a bridge and be mean to him, but we are about to that point. Edit. Thanks, everyone, for the responses. I didn't expect this to get so much traction. We had just got back from a weekend away and were unloading our car and wanting to play with the dogs. We had a house sitter, and he was chatting over the fence, asking where we were, who was at the house, etc. I got super mad and went inside and typed the above, but addressing a lot of the comments. His behavior has always been like this, even when his wife was around. We moved in early 2017. His wife passed in late 2020, early 2021, and I don't remember the exact date. His behavior has not changed, for better or worse, both before and after. He has a group of friends, at least one. 2 times a week, he has people over for a few hours and goes out most days. I can't say if he is still lonely, it is very possible, but he is not a shut-in with 0 outside friends. His mom is in her late 80s and doesn't drive, as far as I know. He wanted to do her brakes as they were grinding. When I did them, the pads were fully intact and the rotors had surface rust. Assuming the car just sits, and when he drives her in it, he noticed the brakes and thought they were bad. Honestly, if he just kept driving, the grinding would have went away, but he wanted to do them anyways. But I'm pretty sure she does not drive at all. We have and do have him over. Our get-together with friends are usually very small, my wife, and 5 friends. But when we do have a bigger party, he is always invited over. The things he shows up for are very small. Again, at most there are 7 total people there, including my wife and I. He does come over, and I go over to his, to have a beer and hang out a few times a year. I travel for work, a lot, so I'm not always around, but usually if I am coming back from somewhere, usually Wisconsin, he'll bring a case of beer that he likes, and we have 1 or 2 when hanging out. This is what I would consider a normal neighbor thing to do. I ask if he's free and tell him I brought him a case. If he is gone, tell him to stop by and grab it when he's back. That seems normal to me. When we cook food, we always bring him some. Even when having our small gatherings, my wife will make up a plate and he'll bring it over. She refuses to talk to him at this point. None of his behavior is bad or threatening. Just annoying and rude IMO. He has some boomer mentality to him, as if he wants something. He will ask my wife to ask me if it's okay. The neighbor behind us has a huge tree that goes into his yard. He wanted to trim the branches, but it's hard from his yard, so he wanted to go in my yard. I wasn't home, but my wife was. He asked her to ask me if it was okay. He went into the yard to trim the tree, as if she isn't 50% owner of the house. We have a 6-foot cedar fence I built during COVID by myself that goes around our entire yard. We have a side driveway that leads to the garage. The driveway is outside the fence. He walks up our driveway, as there is no fence onto it, and our back door is right there along with the gate to our yard, and our patio, etc.